I don't know if this music to you, but I'm sorry that we had such a late start time. 9:30 is a bit of a psych out, in that I'm sure all of you work during the week in some meaningful way. If you're a student, or if you have a professional job, a cubicle or a truck or something, the weekend is fairly sacred. And to start a show at 9:30 at night, I'm not playing anyone with the venue. It's a bit much to ask of an audience to kind of haul ass to a building. A lot of you leaving kids at home. There's a lot involved. And so usually I like to start all these things at 7:30 or 8. So by the time I'm done with you, you can wipe the spit off and stagger out and kind of still have something left of the night. But it is what it is, and here we are. And I've not been this since 20 years of age, and I did kind of a big lap around the world. A very self-indulgent, hey, I turned 50 tour, thank you so much. And Cleveland was part of that. And when I went out a year later on this massive tour that was like 11 months, it was 190 shows in 19 countries. I didn't leave you out. I just figured I had just been beating up on you only a few months before. Maybe I should leave you alone for a while so you can forget how unendurable these things are. And so I thought maybe strategically it would be good to just leave you alone. And so there's a whole lot of things that I want to tell you. But before I do that, I want to preface everything I'm going to say by telling you this is just hot off the wire. I did a show last night in Detroit, and that is traditionally just one of the best damn cities to do a show in. Or on your own. I've been doing shows in Detroit since 1981, and it has never ever let me down, and last night was no exception. But I got a letter from a nice guy that came a few hours ago, and he saw this show, and he said he criticized my technique that I did not walk and work the stage. And I said, there's a lot of concentration, how you try it. And I don't want to, it's a lot to hold in front of your brain pan. But he also said, you didn't come in hard on the big issues of today. To quote Bob Dylan, you don't need a weather vane to know which way the wind blows in. You don't need a 53-year-old man to tell you what he saw on the news. Because I think your head is perfectly extricated from a dark and lonely place and you can make your decisions for yourself. And so it's not going to come down hard on issues. That being said, if you want to get some issues of the day, let's do that for just a second so I can illustrate the point that I illustrated this very nice man that I wrote briefly about an hour and a half ago backstage. A fantastic high-speed setup at this stage that actually works, which is a miracle. Because this is the camera, this is the dense, you can never get internet signal. Anyway, say, let's just take the topic of the day, ISIS, okay? Okay, well, and here's how I'm going to say something and not piss anyone off. Here's how I don't want to hear anything about ISIS from. Some jack-off on the news who's never seen anything more intense than a duck hunt. I don't need Bill O'Reilly to give me a story on what is to be done with ISIS. And I don't need to hear it from Dick Cheney, draft dodger. I don't need to hear it from Ted Nugent, draft dodger. After you serve in the military, I'll listen to you, because I know you know. Are you going to serve in the military? I'll listen to you, because you're about to find out. Are you in the CIA? I'll listen to you, because you're making all of this happen. I only exist in a provable world, and if you want to deal with something like ISIS, and you want to treat it like a puzzle, where the Muslim extremist and that's a big thing, it's an ocean, it's not a puzzle. If you get in the way I assess something like ISIS, I realize it has as much to do with 9/11 and religious extremism as it does with the history of the Middle East or that general area, such as the dismantling of Central Asia by Stalin, the creation of Iraq in 1932, the creation of Israel in 1948, the deposing of Mohammad Mossadegh in Iran in 1953, the three Anglo-Afghan wars of 1863, 1878, and 1919. I may have got one of those wrong. The occupation of the Soviets in Afghanistan, and all of that. It has as much to do with all of that and the shaping and the carving of that region as it does with anything else. So if you're going to deal with these issues now as a puddle, you'll never see the huge wave that will hit you, and you're never going to get it right. So if you want to have an opinion on any of this stuff, you better crack open the books, and you better get your learn on. Otherwise, you are just talking so much bull to me. And And so that's why I'm very careful if I say anything, because I have to prove it in the real world. Let's talk about another topic, like marriage equality. I think marriage between a man and a woman, that's it. I would never want to disabuse you of that unconstitutional point of view, because the first thing that allows you to have a dumbass opinion, okay? And if you're a guy who thinks marriage between a man and a woman, if you have your good wife next to you to prove it, I think that's fantastic. If Bill and Tom get married, your coffee tastes the same tomorrow. Tuesday still comes after Monday. Okay, in my part of the world, Los Angeles, the 101 will still be clogged about 24 hours a day. And since they're not having their honeymoon in your bed, you should lighten up and enjoy what's left of your life. As far as I don't have opinions as to its legality. I believe in the first, 4th, and 14th Amendments of the Constitution. First, guaranteed my right of expression, freedom of speech. The 4th, my right to privacy. And the 14th, my favorite from 1868, equal protection under the law. Those are the things that I go by, because that's the document that is the law of the land. So saith what Article 6 of the Constitution. That you can prove. That is an unalterable fact. And that is why I'm hard hitting the issues of the day. Either you talk about it all night long and I come off as some troll newscaster, or I shut up and I only talk about that which I know. If any of you have ever endured these awful long shows before, you realize there's a singular theme. I keep looking better as I get older. Well, I'm sure over there, I only talk about countries I've been to. So I can say, when I was in North Korea, Pakistan, Senegal, Bangladesh, wherever else, and I've been to about 80 countries.
Senegal right now.
Doesn't make me an expert. I'll never tell you a story about a place I haven't been to. So I'll always tell the truth, and I'll always be able to come from a provable corner. That's the corner I fight from. Now, on with all the other things I wanted to tell you. So, this thing happened the other day. I was hanging out with someone who I've been a fan of for over 30 years. And as a 53-year-old man who's been lurching about on stages for quite a while, a fan of music like many of you since I was a little kid, I've become very enamored with older performers who stuck to their story. People who are like the last good person standing. For example, I got like Bob Holt from Dangerous Review. He's still in the records. They are still really good. He still means it. He never sold out. The guy plays from his guts. He is the real thing. He's a long-time pal of mine. He's a really good dude. And whenever I see him play, I swear, I think it's like the best time I've ever seen him. I would say, you're better than you were 25 years ago. Like, how do you do that? Billy Bragg's been doing this thing since like 1841. And he's one of the nicest, most fully engaged people I've ever met. He's brilliant, he means it, and he picks up that guitar, and he's not messing around. And so I like people who stick to their guns. After decades, they're like, nope, this is what I'm doing. And sometimes people are like that, and I don't like what they do, but I respect the stamina. And one of the people who's never moved off his block, and a wonderful block it is some guy in a band called Motorhead named Lemmy. Exactly. That's the guy who gets pretty much anywhere there's electricity. If you are offended by any records he makes, you should loosen up and enjoy life. It's over so quickly. And he has a look, he has a sound, and if you ask him, does the next Motorhead record going to sound any different? Or no, what's his famous joke? What's going to be the difference between the Motorhead record you just released and the next Motorhead record? And he says, what's in the middle of the donut? Nothing. We're Motorhead, and that's it. And that's where he's at. And so every great once in a while, I hang out with a mighty Lemma. And he's a fierce intellect. He doesn't do the internet, but the guy reads books. He just shoves them into his brain. Whenever I come out in his microscopic apartment, his rows of books, and whenever you leave his place, he always gives you a book. Or maybe two. The last time I was at his place, he gave me 2 books. You can keep this one. I'll give this one back. And the one he gave it back, I eventually bought it. It was in the history of totalitarian art. And it was this amazing book of all these plays of Connie paintings. And it was really fascinating. I bought that book for like $90 from some university bookshop. It's the only place I could find it. And I returned that book to him, and I kept the other history book that he gave me. He's a total history guy. He's also a guy who grew up in England right after World War II. And he just saw, he grew up, his youth was seeing his city just rebuild itself. And he once told me that he ate powdered eggs for about the first 5 years of his life because England was starving. So when Lemmy says something, my ears stand up. Because here's a guy who used to go to Jimi Hendrix. Here's a guy who used to see the Beatles play at the Cavern Club. Here's a guy who one time said to me, like 14 or 15 years ago, we're hanging out in Germany, and he said, I remember before there was rock and roll. I said, stop! You know, what a sentence. I remember before there was rock and roll. Huh? I would explain that. What an amazing statement. He said, I remember when all it was Rosemary Cleaning records. And then he said there was a hardware store, some kind of store, it's like microscopic town, that had mail order service. And he would mail order records, like from like London. And that's how he heard Chuck Berry and Elvis Presley. He said, I heard that, me and my friends, we never turned back. We heard that freedom, and here I am today. So when he heard that call like 150 years ago, and to this day he's still doing his thing. And the last Motorhead record is really good. The one before it was called The World Is Yours. Both of them will give you brain damage. I think he was playing this weekend. I mean, he's really the man. So several days ago, he and I were driving around in LA, and I always pester him. I tell him the new rare Lemmy record I had just found. I said, I just found a copy of the Hawkwind Urban Guerrilla single with a Portuguese picture series. We had to come out in Portugal. I said, yeah, it's a great shot. It's going to look out of your mind. He's like, yeah, I know. And so I put this question to him. I said, do you think rock and roll will ever die? And he said, it might, which is just a man leaving his options open. I said, but Matt, you're still here. And it's my opinion, anytime someone hears a sound, anytime anyone hits puberty, someone somewhere in the world is going to go, not on my watch, I need a soundtrack. And there's going to be a guitar, there's going to be drums. Someone's going to say, let's rock on. Garages, basements, it's never going to die. And at this point, they might be picking up one of your records and be thus inspired. So I'm going to ask you again, do you think rock and roll ever die? But maybe not. And so the idea that I kind of moved the stone, I like to think that maybe kind of sort of, I didn't move it, but maybe I nudged it just a bit. And then I reminded him of this story that I told him, reminded him that it happened. I don't have to tell it to you. Many years ago, I'm with my bandmates, like 2000, somewhere around there. And we're sitting in a very small airplane, an airplane about the size of your car. And we're sitting in a really small airplane on a tarmac in Norway, on our way to Finland for some massive rock festival. Someone is late to the plane. There's many empty seats in this 20-seater, and we can't leave until these people get on board. The nice pilot comes in and says, okay, folks, I have to turn the engine off, and the AC has to go off. We're going to open the side door. It's going to get a little warm in here. I just can't run the engine. It's against the law. I'll get the chamber, the cabin just cool down as soon as we take off. So until these people come and relax and enjoy the warmth, and within 5 minutes, everyone's sweating. I mean, you're sitting basically in this hot box from hell. And so everyone's looking at you like, really, I need to sweat. Whoever's late for this plane, I'm officially pissed off. And so you're such a crook as that drop of sweat. Once the first drop of sweat goes between your butt cheeks, it's off the river, and don't think like, oh no, like, here we go. And there's a stain, and then weird swishing walkers that go forward, back and down behind, because of whoever these damn late people are. And then, at some point, I breathe, and my olfactory is assaulted by this overwhelmingly dense smell that my brain automatically starts to deconstruct. And I find it is 3 offensive odors. 1, sweat, vintage. It is old, vintage sweat. Leather, tobacco. These late people clamber aboard the plane. Behold, Motorhead. And they walk by and everyone's like, oh, dude, yes! And all anger goes away, all sweat evaporates. And then he comes down the aisle and sees a vacant seat next to me. He goes, hello, Henry, mind if I have a seat? Sit right down, sir. And the cabin is closed. We take off. And about 10 minutes into our short hop up to wherever we were going up in Finland, the drinks. And he stops in front of Lenny, and Lenny goes through all the bottles of alcohol like a Rolodex. No. I don't know if he's a connoisseur. I just knew that he didn't like anything on the card. So he looks at the guy and starts issuing these directives. Glass! Ice! Coca-Cola! And he looks at one of his roadie guys. The bottle! And out of his leather sack comes a bottle of brown liquid. I guess it's alcohol. He takes it and puts the cap back on, gives it to his man, and the guy goes, "A drink for you." I said, "I'd like a Diet Coke, please." Super lightweight. And Lenny and I toast our drinks, and he looks at me and he says, "One of the greatest sentences in the history of rock and roll." He said, "Henry, I will not be betrayed by a mere airline." So he breaks his whole problem. No one in rock and roll has used the word betrayal. That was the first. And many years later, I said, "Do you remember when you said one of the greatest sentences uttered in the history of rock and roll?" And he kind of just tolerates it. "No, what did I say?" And I told him that story. "Do you remember that?" Not a lot impresses Lenny because he's seen a lot go by. But he did say betrayal. And so at this point, I look for integrity in people, and I try to find the good situation in people. I'm not naive. I was not born yesterday. There's not one rodeo. It's my first day at. And so I've been around like all of you. So I'm not looking through the nice rose-colored shades of the world. But the only way I can kick ass on the bad stuff is to keep seeing good stuff to know that it is worth fighting for. And so when I see the bad, I temper it with the good and realize there's more good than bad. President Johnson, a guy who fascinates me because the good stuff is good and the bad stuff is bad. The Great Society, all the things that he passed, fantastic. Vietnam, not so good. But he said something, and I'll at best paraphrase it. He said, most people are good, and the ones that aren't, something was done to them. And I was really strong. He's basically saying most of us are good, and if you're bad or mean or something, someone got to you at some point, and maybe you can be turned around. That's how I interpret what he said. And that gives me a lot of hope. And so as bad as things get, as many people lying on the news, as many times as I watch televised news and realize it's being sponsored by the people who create destruction, I will not give up on America, ever. I will not give up on Homo sapiens, the species. I just will not give up. I see too many examples of good. And so I try and find any good situation and be galvanized and strengthened by it. And this thing happened where I wanted, the story gives a bit of a pre-roll, where something that took years to find the good in this thing, but I found it. About 150 years ago, when I was young, I graduated from high school in 1879, and I was basically suited for minimum wage work in that, like many of you, I had jobs all through high school. You never ever told me to go get a job. I had 3. I had multiple keys to multiple stores on my keychain as a high schooler. I never stole. I knew how to do the money. I could hire and fire. I could rock the inventory. I could make the night deposit. I would never steal from the store. Bosses liked me because I was a problem solver, and I loved making my own money. I didn't want to ask my mom for money to buy a bike at Sears and Roebuck. I saved my own money, bought my own bikes, my own clothes, my own skateboards, like many of you. I just wanted as much autonomy as I could get. And so by the time I left high school, I tried college. It wasn't for me. I didn't like school very much. I'm not good at it. I'm not smart. I'm just fun. And so I reckon my life would be a Bruce Springsteen lyric. I'm going to be the guy they play 6 Bob Seger songs for on the radio. We got 6 Bob Seger coming up, all you hard-working blue-collar guys out there. That's going to be that was my whole life. And I'm not putting it down. I'm just saying I was getting ready for a life of $3.75 an hour. And I was doing it up to 20 hours a week as a high schooler. Now I'm doing it 60 hours a week at an ice cream store in, around the time of 1980. Around that time, I heard a band called Black Flag. And obviously, it's on this music, but I had heard a lot of punk rock, which I quite enjoyed. It really gave me a lot of wind under my wings. I saw the Clash and Led Zeppelin, I think, in the same 12 months. I saw them in 1 year. I saw the baton get passed, where I went from Steve Miller records to the first Rollins album. And stupidly, throughout the Steve Miller records, like No Fly Like an Eagle, How Weak. And went into a record store years later and bought all the Steve Miller records back because they were actually really good. And that's about the time I started getting recognized. Henry Rollins, buying a Steve Miller, just put it in the bag and shut up. And his greatest hit, shut up, it's over. The first two Boston albums, put it in the bag. Anyway, it's good rock and roll. In fact, you can like all of it. You can like country and western, and you don't have to, well, I listen to this, therefore heavy metal sucks. I like all that stuff. Anyway, I found myself hearing Black Flag for the first time. I said, Eureka! Finally, a band that is as angry as I am. And I had so much ambient anger, like many of you. It's like, Johnny, you're like, what are you mad at? What have you got? You know, I was mad. He's like, here comes the sun. I'm just mad at everything. And punk rock was cool. I really still works to this day. When I heard Black Flag, when finally someone who wants to just tear the world to pieces, that's my band. I should probably be the singer. That would be a good thing. But that never happened. And so they came to Washington, D.C. And Ian MacKay, the band minor for Buzzy, he was a champion of the band. I was friends since he was 11 and I was 12, a friendship that endures to this day. I saw him about 3 days ago. He's still a man. And so Ian, he was a visionary, he said, I'm going to meet Black Flag. Let's get on the phone. And like, I went the number for SST Records in California. And he said, yeah, I just talked to Black Flag the other day on the phone. You did what? He said, yeah, I called SST. That's it. He just calls SST because he's that guy. So now it's friends with Black Flag. He said, yeah, so they're going to come to town and they don't have a place to stay, so they're going to stay at my mom's house. I go over to Ian's house and there's this like banged up fan in front of his house. I walk in and there's the Black Flag in his living room. His mom's cooking for them. I'm like, you can walk up and poke him like, just like little pictures. And they're incredibly nice guys, and we see them play, and it's as good as I hoped it would be. And I remember I saw them, like, back in the ring the next day, and they took off for the next adventure. And I watched their van pull away, and I said to myself, I should be in that van. But instead of that, in 1 hour or less, I will have a cloth cap on my head, a hockey dog shirt, and an apron tied around my waist. And I'll be saying one soup or two. And I'm just going to go back to my job, and they're going to go on some adventure, and my heart sank. So I realized that's never going to be me. I'm going to be the guy with swollen feet and a bad back, a stereo this big, and a bed that smells like, old laundry. That's going to be me. And so you better eat some aspirin and suck it up, Caroline, because that's your life. And so I trudged down the road. And so months go by, and the mighty Black Flag comes back to the East Coast. They're not coming to Washington, D.C., they're only playing New York. And so I logic this out, and I call them, because I had kind of made inroads with them. I said, hey, you're coming to New York. Can I get on the guest list for that show? They said, sure. So I worked it out with my boss. Hey, boss, can I go to New York to see this band come back down? And it's like, 3 hours of work. So I was kind of running this guy's store for him. He said, yeah, no problem. So I went out to New York in my little 1968 VW Fastback, completely dead on the hood from where the mace canister bounced off as my mom drove home in the middle of a riot. And I got on the guest list and I saw the Playboy in the Plaza. And after the show was over, they said, hey, we're going to go play some other club for like some extra money to go meet some chicks. That's what we do. And if you want to help us load up the gear and follow us to the speed, you can see it at another show. I'm looking at my watch. I'm not going to be able to sleep because I got to drive 5 hours down to DC to go to work. So I'm envisioning what I used to do before I had an apartment. I used to live in my car. And I used to go into work early and get into the work seat to shower myself off with the big work seat, that shower at Boston Avenue. Anyway, I said, well, it'll be another day like that. So I said, yeah. And so I drive down the street with them, follow their van to a small club at 7th and A in the East Village, and I help them load in. I see a guy get stabbed. Welcome to New York. And all of a sudden, they're all in this very small room playing. I'm looking at my watch, like, damn, man, I gotta go. And so I say to Des, the singer, I go, hey, man, can you play that song Clocked In? He's not going to work. I said, because I gotta go to work, man, I gotta leave. So play this and I'll split. And Des said, all right, we're going to play this song for Henry because he's got to go to work. And I looked at Des, he's holding the microphone, I looked at the microphone, I looked at Des, and Des goes, yeah, of course you should sing. Why not? So I jump off stage, holding the mic, and everyone in the band's like, oh, cool, Henry's singing. I mean, it's a loose show, no one cares. And the people in the audience like, okay, that deranged 150-pound man with no hairs and sing a song. Who knows? And so I always thought this 96-second song should be given a bit more oomph. That the singer should resemble Linda Blair, The Exorcist. That, that head should come off. And so the band was in the song, and I do my, I happen to know the lyrics. I remember two images. I remember looking from side to side like the quarterback before the snap. And I remember seeing the people in Black Flag look like, wow, that's not nothing, that's intense. And I remember the audience had basically, there's two different reactions. There's people like, all right, like, whoa, and other people like, whoa, and the minute it happens, the song is over. So I give the mic back to Denzel, like, well, see you. And I walk out of the club, hop in my car, and go back down to DC thinking, wow, I was in Black Flag for 90 seconds. Man, I'm never going to forget that as long as I live until everyone to the day I die. The next time it works, so see ya. And he took me to the Greyhound bus station. I still have the ticket. And I caught up with the band in Detroit, Michigan. And so I hopped out of the Greyhound bus, just like the beginning of the Welcome to the Jungle video. And the venue was Bookies. I go across town to Bookies, and I go in, I think it was Bookies. And I walk in, the band's not there yet, it's like 2 in the afternoon, something like that. And there's a woman working there, she goes, may I help you? And I had to tell her the truth. And it sounded so strange coming out of my mouth. I said, I'm the singer of Black Flag. And she went, oh great, you want a drink? My Nick or Keith, like when you're offering drinks, I said, yes, I'll have a Coca-Cola. And she went to that miserable machine that they've never been able to make work very well. There's an awful tasting flat syrupy liquid, and I'm like, wow, a free drink. I have arrived. And that's kind of how this whole evil ball got started rolling. And so I have been accused of being a workaholic. People have said, you're a workaholic. And I would say, no, that's an insult to workaholics. Workaholics were people like Cameron, who couldn't turn his brain off. Someone like Thomas Wolfe, who at one point had written 10,000 words without sleeping. And he ran up and down the streets of Brooklyn yelling, I wrote 10,000 words. It was Melville who would work 20-hour days. It was Thomas Jefferson who had his bed next to his desk. So he could roll out of bed and work and nap ceaselessly. That's an workaholic. I am a work slut. I am trained to do nothing but fascinated by everything, and I have this weird and wicked addiction to food. I like to eat it every day. And so when unemployment comes my way that I'm in no way qualified for, I go like, sure, because I know where I come from. I come from parking your car, cleaning up after your animal, and serving your food. And very well, I might be going back there before this whole rich package is over. I know that. And so I say yes to work that I'm not exactly qualified for, because I think jumping into the coldest, deepest part of the pool with no swimming instruction is a way to keep the blood thin. And somewhere in the 80s, Hollywood directors started contacting me. I saw you in college, you're a maniac. You want to be in a movie? I'm like, yeah, are you paying? Because I like to eat. Like, yeah, can you act? I'm like, yeah, can you pay? Because I'll BS my way from anything to eat. And so I ended up doing all these films that are not a streetcar named Desire. But not being Brando, I reckon it's a good fit. And in 1998, I did a film called Jack Frost. It was Troy Miller, the director of the film who created Mr. Show. Brilliant guy. He called me, he said, look, hey, it's Troy Miller, I'm a fan of yours. Come on over, Mark Rollins. Let me talk to you about this film I'm going to make. I got a role for you. I said, work, I'll take it. Because between tours, I'm basically unemployed. I do not like unemployment. I don't do vacations. I don't look at them. I like to be involved and kept busy all the time. Let my mind take over my mind. The depression is unendurable. So basically, I need a wheel I can run on. And so I go to his office. I said, look, here's what I got. I got a movie about a guy who's kind of not the best dad, and he dies. He comes back a year later as a snowman and is able to convince his family, hey, I'm not such a bad guy after all. I'm really missing guys. And then he goes away, kind of like the song, just like the song. So I said, so what? It's mechanical snowman, handsome people who built this animatronic snowman, with many servo motors in his face, and you're going to be the hockey coach, the local hockey coach for the 8-year-old hockey team, and you're going to be utterly psychotic. So I'm going to yell at you and turn you purple and have your eyes pop out of your head as you tell these kids to decimate the other team, yet keep it fair. So I said, I get to yell at you like a total maniac and a bunch of really short Hollywood actor kids. He said, yeah, I said, oh, I'll take it. And so Preston and a bunch of Starburst, wonderful 8-year-old child actors and their mercenary Hollywood moms. And they're on the Rollins lot making this film that is not exactly Godfather 2. And so I made this film, and to this day, people write me, I kind of like it, and I don't always agree with it, which is cool, but Jack Frost, why? Like it's some kind of dagger that I shoved into their side. Like, and to you, like, why'd you make that? It's a really harmless film, which I've never seen. But I'll act it, I don't want to see it. I just want to get to work and throw it on the shelf and ride off, into the next thing. And so I did the film, people say, why'd you do that? And I explained. I said, you don't live in LA, do you? They go, no. I said, because if you live in LA, you wouldn't answer that question. So if you live in LA and you see someone who's been in a really bad film, you're like, good work if you can get it. Right? They go, absolutely, man. I got my chef boy Dean ravioli for 4 weeks out of that film. And you just kind of hang in there and you act where anyone gives you a chance to act. But anyone else will look at that and go, what a crappy film. Fair enough, that's your opinion. That's fine with me. And so I took the work because I don't like sitting around and I really like eating. I'm not going to steal to eat, that's just me. And so I never thought the film had any value until a few months ago. And I was off the road, I was in Los Angeles. And a little bit about me. I'm one of the most unexciting people you'll ever run into. A Friday night for me, like the most bitchy Friday night for me when I'm off the road, it is not me snorting cocaine off the perk breasts of trick-ass bitches that I have none of that action going. My home is this utilitarian cement box with books, records, and punk rock posters, and flat surfaces that are neatly turned into workspaces. I will turn a lethal injection, dog-eyed crucifix into a workstation before they kill me. I will work as I'm drowning. And so on Friday nights, I like to leave it, and I load up my backpack with analog, digital tunes, and I seek hot caffeinated liquid. And so usually the Starbucks in Toluca Lake, California, next to Warner's Lot, next to Disney, and next to Bob's Big Boy. This particular Bob's Big Boy is famous because that's when David Lynch would sit and eat the same with grilled cheese sandwich every day for 11 years. There's also a massive parking lot in the back, and when the weather is fair on weekends, huge amounts of gearheads show up and show off their unbelievably beautiful cars and motorcycles. So you just see a sea of automobiles, the hoods are up, and a bunch of people with like denim vests and wallet chains and big boots are walking around looking at engines and just talking car and motorcycle talk. It's completely cool. That guy from Storage Wars on A&E who has the skeleton gloves, he's there like every weekend, standing there, people line up. You're in that show about people who look at junk. Man, I like your gloves. He signs autographs and just hangs out. And I'm like, hey, look at the dream. And those people come into the Starbucks next door, which is usually full of screenwriters, so it's a very quiet Starbucks. And you eavesdrop on all the laptop, it's all screenplays. These are industry people, kind of just pecking away, not making a sound. And these huge men and women, like all these gearhead people, they're like 220 pounds. And even like the guys who are big, their stomachs are rock hard. There's like these extremely hard men. And the women who love them have that dangerous beauty where most of the breasts are exposed from the tank top and the leather vest. And they're just like, yeah, the roses tattooed, and these men have these unbelievably strong hands, tattoos on their faces, missing fingers, just all this intensity, like, damn. And they're hard to say, what? They use the men's and ladies' rooms, and they want some hot coffee when the weather cools off. And there's a steady train of these men and women in and out all night at the Starbucks, which is conveniently located. So I'm sitting in a corner table, about to start writing what's going to be the next LA article, and I'm aware of some movement in front of me, and I look up, and it's one of those large men. It's like a human door with a bald head on top. Incredibly menacing guy, huge. He could just smash me with one hammer-like blow, and I'd be talking to you 10% slower. And so I look up, and it's I can go nowhere. So I'm like the mouse before the eagle's talons descend upon him. Well, what's this going to be? And the guy stands in front of me and does nothing for a few seconds, and it feels like a whole fiscal quarter. And then his face starts to writhe and contort like he's chewing a bead, or he's about to sneeze. he breaks out in tears. He starts crying. And not crying, oh, I hurt my ankle. It's like a deep, painful, like the tears are coming from his bone marrow. Like, tears are streaming down his face. Now, everyone in the Starbucks is looking at the AARP guy, gray-haired, sitting while this huge man is leaning over him crying. And they're wondering, he's a town full of artists, maybe this is performance art. Wham! What's he doing? Back in the middle of nowhere. And so he cries for a minute, and he recovers, and he starts talking. I was married to one woman 34 years ago, kids. He liked this so much. And I immediately start feeling for this guy, because somehow I have reminded him of his dearly departed wife. If any of you have ever lost on that call, when someone you truly love is ripped out of your life, and many of you sadly know what I'm talking about, and you know what I know, it never gets better. You just learn how to walk with it and put it in the pack, and the pack is heavy, and you just develop the shoulder strength. But 10 years go by, 20 years go by, and it hurts like the same day it happened. It never gets better, and the pain is monumental. And if it ever happens to you, you better get ready, because it's real, it's life itself. And so this guy is coming from that, and I have nothing but respect for it. And so he's really telling me about, oh, 34 years old, every Christmas, we would watch Jack Frost. That don't mean so much to me. I still watch it and I think of her. Thank you so much for making him. Because I love her so much. And to see a guy who looks like the entire front line of the Chicago Bears crying, that takes a hell of a lot of men to be able to break down in front of another man in a whole coffee place full of people and push that out. I got just nothing but respect. And I'm like, okay, well, what do I do? I was like, okay, we're sad, and we miss our wife, and we love this movie that we watch every Christmas. And the guy's like a lot of guys. He's like a lot of guys in here. He can't help himself. He's one half geek and one half nerd, even though he has tattoos on his face. Remember that scene where you're in the Jeep and you go around the corner? Was that you or a stuntman? All of this pain and grief, you still want to get the details. And then I come alive because I love details. And I said, actually, that was me. That was the director's Jeep. We needed a vehicle. He said, can you drive the stick? I said, yeah, sure. And so he goes, can you drive backwards, peel around the corner, and make it look good? And like, we don't have stuntmen. We don't have the budget. Can you do this? I'm like, watch, and I did it. And I wanted to tell him, sir, if you really want to know, we shot that at Gate 5, entrance of Warner Brothers, 2 traffic lights from here, employing an amazing snow machine, because we shot it in the month of June, when it was like 98 degrees at night. And we had enough time to shoot this in 1.5 times before all the snow would melt away, and then they come in with the snow machine and made it one more time. But we only had the budget to shoot it twice, so we had to get it right. It was a pressure shot to have the snowman do the right thing, and to make this movie that people go, dude, why? For it mattered to 2 people, the dearly departed wife and the poor bastard who has to live the rest of his life without her. And I am part of his happiness and a reminder of his sadness. And so he kind of gets himself together and thanks me. And I said, I'm so sorry about the loss. Glad you like the movie. Wow. And then his equally large friends, wait, where's our buddy? And they see him leaning over me, gesticulating. They figure, the gray-haired guy's got in our friend's face. We're going to go kick that ski man's ass. And they come walking over, to be with their guy, and they're on either side of him, and they're looking at their friend like, what are you doing? He was in Jack Frost. Huh? That's a movie. And he had to explain to his friends. And he's like, I'm sorry for bothering you. I know you're busy. Thank you so much. I shake his hand. And his friends have the bird go, and they walk away, and everyone kind of sort of goes back to normal, but now I'm the guy in the corner that makes huge men cry. So they're going to keep an eye on me. And I go, wow, maybe I'll just do my only weekly article about that. And I'm taking notes about what just happened. Like, what is the extract from that? What is the takeaway from that? Is it a funny story? Is it a sad story? Does it lead to something bigger? So I'm making notes. I love making notes. I make notes about notes. I like to take note-taking notes. I think you can never have enough notes. And so I'm taking notes on what just happened. And I hear an adult woman in my left cheek. She's obviously about to sit down at the table next to me, where it's come up to my left side. And I hear a woman go, "Oh my God!" And I look up, and a woman is staring down at me. She goes, "I love you!" Now, when someone yells, "I love you," at you, don't be afraid of that. Because the love they're talking about is the same love they ascribe to puppies and pizza and Breaking Bad. I love you! I love pizza! And I love pizza that much as well, but I don't need to shrink it in front of your face. I just need to eat too much of it. That's how I show. That's how I root pizza. And so she loves me. And I said, "Well, thank you, ma'am." And when I get uncomfortable, I get super polite. Like, "Thank you, ma'am." And her friend walks over with their drinks. And she was like, Who's this? Why do you love this guy? Like, "You know who he is?" And now everyone is staring at me. Because now a woman's yelling. There was a big guy crying. 7 minutes later, there's an adult woman screeching, "You know who he is? Oh my God! He is the most amazing neo-Nazi you've ever seen!" "You are my favorite neo-Nazi!" Now, this walks a delicate line that I'll try and be very careful as I flesh out. I try to be the best in everything I do. Just try and be the best that I can be. I would hate to think that I was her second favorite neo-Nazi. Like, if she said, "Oh my God, you're almost my favorite neo-Nazi!" And obviously she's making reference to the character I played on Sons of Anarchy season 2. And so it's in real life, I guess you might surmise that I'm not a neo-Nazi. But on TV, show enough. And so, "Oh my God, you're my favorite neo-Nazi," which is, it's kind of a compliment. I'm like, and you can't say thank you, so you have to go, "Fuck." And so now everyone's heard "Nazi" a couple of times as she's staring at me. And I said, "Oh, so is it Nazi, is he?" And everyone's like, "Oh my God, can we do a photo?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course, no problem." And I get up, she's incredibly nice, she's just excited, and she likes the show. And so I good naturedly put my arm around her shoulder as she hands her phone to her friend. This has happened to me. I wish I had a dollar for every time this has happened. Someone hands the phone to the other person to take a cell phone photo of me and that person. That person whose the cell phone has been handed to does not know how to make a picture come out of that phone. Oh my God, I think I just called your mom. "Hi, hey, on that phone. Yeah, it's me, it's Marilyn. I'm she'll call you later." And I think I'm taking a movie of you guys. How do you make this work? Meanwhile, you have this awkward closeness. You have your arm around someone, you're smelling them, they're smelling you. It's weird, you can feel their heart beating. Sometimes you're getting, like, let's say, boob, but you get side pressed. It's just really, I don't need that thank you, but it starts to happen. You're like, okay, this really needs to be over. And sometimes it takes like a minute and a half. Wow, we've been together a lot now. So it's getting the phone camera function to work. And this woman kind of reaches down. And I didn't get much physical contact. So I grew up from a consenting adult, which I wasn't, but she consented to grab me. It was okay. It was like, wow. All tiredness is all of a sudden disappeared. I gently assaulted it to look away. And doing the photo, she probably did that to get my posture to stand more straight for me to pay more attention. We do the photo, she sits down, and they kind of go back to talking amongst each other. And I just roll up my gear, and I go, I should probably just go home now. and just burn out in front of my stereo. That's the third thing happens in this place. And the reason I told you all of that is because, just my opinion, I think we, or you do whatever you want, you're an adult, I think I need to be as respectful as possible to other people, even when they're being jerks to me, which happens. And I shouldn't be the one who starts the jerk thing, because everyone's got a story. And that's why you really can't fool anybody. That's why maybe most criminals get caught, because as soon as someone's awake, they're thinking about a lot of stuff. And if you don't understand that, if you think people think differently than you do, in that they're not aware when they're awake, they're checking them out. You think you're checking them out, they check you out before you're checking them out. People are wakeful. When they're wakeful, they're observant. And so if they're functioning, you have to respect that. And for a lot of people, Jack Frost is a film they saw half the time on an airplane, like, never again. For this guy, he's probably seen it, what, a dozen times? And he misses his life whenever he sees it. So for him, that movie is enough to make him cry in a coffee place in front of a grown-up man. And so I have to respect that. And I have to hope that maybe all these other wretched films I was in, something like that might happen. And here's another example of that. I have a TV show that I'm in a TV show for now, called 10 Things You Don't Know About on History Channel 2. And it's a really good show in my opinion. It's the hardest show I've ever shot in my brief history of being on TV. It's a 6-day shoot week, 12 to 15 hours a day. There's up to 40 pages of reading material in my entire books that we have to read. So you can hold on to the Yale professor as he or she talks about the history of Andrew Jackson, so you don't interview them and make them feel like their time is being wasted. So at the end of the day, I've done 2 to 3 interviews with experts, historians, and professors, and I'm hanging on, like with everything I've got to hang in with these people. And at the end of the day, I'm like, whoa! And I go back to some hotel room somewhere, read 40 pages of Xerox, fall asleep with all of it on my chest, with a half-eaten microwave food, I get up at 4 in the morning to start the day again. On Sundays, our day off, I eat aspirin and claim I'm too old for this. But it takes 5.5 months to shoot this show. We just finished it the other day, and the show is almost over when we're still shooting it. It's an odd thing to do. Anyway, we were in Las Vegas shooting an episode on Las Vegas, an episode on the Hoover Dam, and an episode on the California Gold Rush. You can't talk about the California Gold Rush without also talking about Colorado and Nevada, because when the gold ran out of California, a lot of people went east and discovered gold on their way home. So we're trying to hit this from all different angles, which puts us in Las Vegas as a base camp for like 2 weeks. We're shooting like 115-degree heat. Our cameramen are dying. The guests are being sweated on. It's a tough time. In our brief moments inside casinos and the air conditioning, it was great. At one point, we found ourselves, I think, at the Las Vegas Hilton, that has a theater that Elvis Presley, back when it was the International Hotel, where he did about 800 shows. He played there on and off for 4 years, I believe starting in the early 1970s. For Elvis fans, this is Mecca. Elvis fans like to walk in, go on the stage, kiss it, wipe a cloth on it. They like to go home with a souvenir. They want a prank from it, which you can't have. And they want to touch Mecca, where Elvis stood and went, and did his thing. And I thought that was wildly talented. I just wish someone gave me better songs to sing. And then you don't need 80,000 chicks backing you up, just a guitar, piano, and bass, and just start singing, pal. Anyway, you don't need my opinion on Elvis Presley. I think that was amazing. But anyway, we're shooting inside this theater with an Elvis historian about Elvis and his time in Las Vegas, because you have to tell the Las Vegas story. You can't not talk about him. And we're using the stage as a backdrop. And so for us, this is the thing we're shooting. I looked at it. It looks like this. It's just a stage, and there's seats, and there's an exit door. Ta-da! That's it. It doesn't mean anything to me. But we worked there for like 3.5 hours. And so finally we wrap, the expert goes away, and we're gearing up to leave. And we're going from the front of the casino, the front of the theater, into the casino to the parking structure. And as we're walking out, I'm walking out with the day manager of the theater, and we're thanking him for his generosity. He's really cool to us. We open the door, and coming towards us, trying to gain entry into the theater, are 2 guys dressed as Elvis. They are in their 60s. One guy is in the white rhinestone Evil Knievel jumpsuit version of Elvis. Huge fuzzy sideburns, this amazing bit of hair, the big glasses, this like 80-pound suit, the cape. I mean, the guy looks amazing. There's another guy with him of equal age, he's like, 60-something, trying to be the young Elvis with a gut, and this huge, odd, either wig or inflated hair thing. They look utterly ridiculous. The guy with the rhinestone outfit, he's walking like this. Like, he's about to enter Mecca, and he's like really into it. They're talking with two women. They have been able to convince women to come with them. I can't do it, but the guy in the white rhinestone suit is got the chicks. Hey, I should get the name of his tailor. Anyway, they're speaking what sounds like German, and so they're probably from the European continent. I'm like, wow, you flew a long way to dig yourself some Elvis. And they're about to go in and behold the stage. And they're about to put their hand on the door, they're walking by us, and they think they're going in. The day manager, who probably sees about 20 of these guys a day, in one sentence, he shuts them down. Sorry, gentlemen, the theater's closed. And to watch the heartbreak go physically through their body. It's like their body was being killed from the head to the toe. The guy, his hands fall, his hair goes, ooh. His whole life force diminishes. The other guy, his mom goes, we're gonna go. And I thought the guy in the rhinestone outfit was about to cry. I was like, damn. And that's when I realized these guys don't look like idiots. They're Elvis fans. They are true believers in rock and roll. I got a record collection. It is the only thing that I miss when I'm on the road. You could put me on tour for 8 years. That's just 8 years. I'm with my audience where I'm supposed to be. This is where I'm supposed to be. The only time I miss anything, I miss my damn records, man. I want to put a record on and play. And that's it. Otherwise, I don't care if I see my house ever again. My backpack, have a night of sleep, and traveling in economy. It rocks my world. But this guy is as into rock and roll as I am, enough to dress like Elvis, look like Elvis, and make this trek. And this guy can't give these two dudes 5 minutes to get on their knees and kiss the stage and go up there and do some poses so their girlfriends can take some cell phone shots so they can leave. He can't do that. Well, it's his theater. And that's when I said, I gotta start judging people differently. Because these guys are the real deal. They make me look lightweight in my appreciation of rock and roll. And I can't think of anyone I want to dress like. Unless they wear Dickies, t-shirts, and eat out of cans and microwave ovens. That's what I looks like. Oh wait, that's me. And if that guy happens to be in the band, you look like the guy in the band who looks completely generic. And so then another lesson of you have to slow down and let people boogie woogie. You gotta let people do their thing. Don't judge too harshly. And I don't know if that resonates with you at all, but if you saw the heartbreak going across these guys, you would have almost wept yourself. I felt so bad for them. And they folded so they went, oh, okay, thank you. And they turned around like tired puppies, like, oh. And they went gently back to the casino. And I was like, damn, you just crushed those guys. Hopefully they got to kiss the stage. I hope that happened. Here's something else that happened recently. Do you remember several months ago when the amazing punk rock band Pussy Riot went and did their action at the Our Christ the Savior Church, I think it's called, in Moscow in the year of, I think, 2012, and they were thrown in prison, and they were eventually incarcerated for about 21 months. You read that, I read about it. There's a great documentary called Punk Prayer, Pussy Riot, A Punk Prayer. I've watched it a couple of times. It is really damn intense. I think you can watch it for free on the internet. I can't tell you what to do, but I would suggest you check it out. It is amazing. They are amazing. I wanted to meet them ever since I read about them. I'm like, wow. Especially Nadia and Masha, the two who did the time. And I thought, while they're in there, I said, I hope they don't get killed. And I hope when they get out, that they tour the world and talk about punk rock and homophobia and sexism and women's rights and freedom and civil rights, because those two would have a platform to stand on that you could not knock them off. What have you done for civil rights? Took almost 2 years in one of Putin's prisons. What do you got? Oh, yeah, you got $18 to buy a t-shirt to shut up and stand in line. That's what you got. And so I wanted to meet these two girls just like go, wow, you're, damn, I wanted to do that. And I knew, of course, that was going to happen. That's our reading about Nadia and Masha, that they're going all around the world, and they're speaking, they're doing stuff. I was like, check you out, you're taking punk rock on the road. That's what it's all about. Then I get this phone call from the people who run Riot Fest, the multi-day festival, and they said, we're going to bring Pussy Riot to the Chicago Riot Fest. We want you to moderate a panel with Pussy Riot and some other guests. What do you say? I said yes so fast I sprayed my face. And so I over-prepared my own preparation. I had notes about the notes. I had 17 pages of notes. I was going to wear these tools out. I was going to make the translator fall down and die. And so eventually we all assembled on stage. Marcel Trout from Must Magazine, Tim from Rise Against, good guy, great band, and Dr. Greg Kraft from Bad Religion, intensely intelligent guy, and Mike, who runs Riot Fest, really good dude, and Nadia and Masha of Pussy Riot. It's raining in Chicago. It's like, it's like what, September? So of course it feels like December. It's brutal. It's a sea of people being rained on. You're like, okay, we shall endure. And you find out that the Pussy Riot girls, they are learning English like this fast because they're around English-speaking people. They didn't really need a translator. And not only were they righteous and articulate, they were hilarious. I had no idea we were going to have a comedy component. And so they basically kicked everyone's ass for about 90 minutes. And it was such an honor to be with these two small women. They're very small and that they don't weigh much. But it just shows you, it doesn't matter what size you are, if you've got the guts to stand up and take whatever comes your way for standing up for what you believe in, if you're willing to go to prison for 21 out of 24-month sentence for basically being rude and interrupting a church for 22 seconds, hell, you can change the world. Watch interviews with Vladimir Putin about Pussy Riot. He can't even say the words. His voice goes up in pitch when he talks about them. They got in his head. They kicked his ass. I can't kick his ass. Because girls kicked his ass. And not only did they kick his ass, they beat him solidly. And they sent a gun shot across the bow of anyone who wanted to oppress anyone in this world. It sounds like I'm putting too much tail on the end of that kite. I don't think what they did can be over-mentioned. And that, to me, is the great strength of punk rock. And I got two things right in my life. One, thing I got right, that I bought Rollins and Clash records when I was a young person, like, that's my soundtrack. My shit has come in, and I'm 53, I still listen to those records, and they're still great. And the other thing I got right was becoming best friends with Ian McConnell. Those are the two things I got right. The rest has been one magnificent screw after another. Here's something else that I thought was pretty interesting that I wanted to yell at you about. I think, and don't get mad at me, so I talked about this last night or the night before, someone booed me, booed me. Please, I think smoking marijuana is a monumental waste of time. Wait, for me, I don't want to do it, unless one day something might go whoops in my body and smoking marijuana might give me help. Then I don't want to have it. And I don't want to go to a dealer to get it. And if you're dealers, I'm not trying to put you out of job, which I effectively would be doing what I'm about to say. I think marijuana should be legalized and decriminalized all across America. I don't want to smoke marijuana. I have no interest in it whatsoever. If alcohol's legal, and we see what happens with alcohol, I just don't read any headlines or memos or blurbs of breaking news. Man takes 4 bong rips and beats the hell out of wife. Man smokes doobie and goes and kicks a bunch of people's asses and talks and says a bunch of hilarious, stupid crap and makes everyone leave the party. I have read man smokes joint, plays 90 hours of video game. Man orders a pizza, goes into narcoleptic coma for 14 hours. Is late for work. I want no part in any of that. I put the public punctual. I'd rather be on time. I just don't see the harm in what people already smoke as much as they want of anyway, but they do it with And so when I had to pitch ideas to the History Channel as to what shows we would do this season, I said, I'd like to do a thing on the Hoover Dam. This is a great American story. It takes in a lot of other stories with it. And I'd like to do a thing on the history of hemp and marijuana, or cannabis, if you will, in America, because it's this great history of hypocrisy. And the Cleveland did both of those. And so in order to talk about marijuana, you got to talk about hemp and all kinds of things. But you also have to go to the Cannabis Cup on April 20th in Denver, Colorado, which we did. And it was 30,000 people in one big building going, yay, marijuana. It was the most orderly, friendly 30,000 people I've ever spent about 10 hours with in my entire life. The line goes from here to your house. It just goes and goes and goes. There's like 4 cops there. They're bored because no one's doing anything. Everyone's lying, having intellectual discussions. Yeah, well, I think these laws might change. What science fiction novel have you read lately? I forget, man. Hey, that's funny. That's a dope story, right? Hey! And you can have an ass pocket marijuana in Denver because it's Colorado, and when people, the cops like, would you please, not leave your car running in the park? I mean, the cops are like, here's your frisbee matches. Really? And we're History Channel, so we get in there first, because we want the shot of everyone running in as the doors open. So we get the shot, and we're set up, and I'm coming to the point, and people run by our camera like, yay! And they recognize, like, yay! People are like, roaring by. I think this is a great day in America. And so the place is full. And we were doing what should have taken about 2.5 hours. It's our Man on the Street section. We ask people in the world, what do you think about this, and this? And we find out what people know or don't know about history or about the topic. And so we were there to get 2.5 hours of work. It took 10 hours. So there's 2 parts of this massive convention. There's the non-smoking section and there's the smoking section. Wow. So we started the non-smoking section, which is merchandise and cannabis accoutrement, like a cool hip bag for your weed, a thing that hang your weed from your bicycle handlebars. I mean, we're in the industry, people are make gadgets. And so we're interviewing vendors, and it's quite a revenue spending industry. And we're talking to like some high times who put it on. And we start interviewing people like, hey, what do you know about this? And we're trying to get people to give us slang names for marijuana, like dope, weed, whatever. And so what do you call marijuana? We realized we're going to be here until tomorrow. And so we interviewed like 50 people, like 2 of them are using flow. I was like, wow. And like I asked them, well, you're the cannabis stuff, what do you want them to be? Ask me anything. I'm so mellow right now. Come on! And so we go to the smoking section to see if our luck will change. And the environment is very foggy and fragrant. And about 30 minutes in, I'm interviewing people. So, hold on. What's the question again? And the camera were like, am I filming you? I need the camera. You're holding the camera. Oh, thanks. Luckily, we were saved by the bell. Lunch break. And this cavernous convention center has lots of rooms. So they give us a room that we can like put our gear in and repair and to have lunch. And one of the production assistants has gone out and done us a bunch of sandwiches. And I'm sitting there with some kind of tuna melted thing, and I'm eating it. And I didn't want to be the first guy in the room to say this, but no one else was talking. They're really involved with their sandwiches. Like many of you, I really enjoy food. I really like it. And I had to ask a question. I said, is it just me? Or is this the best sandwich? Are exploding in my mouth. And I'm studying it. It's bread and tuna and spices and cheese. Maybe it's some kind of thing in the mayonnaise. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, listen. And everyone looks up from their stairs like, you're right, it's really good. And I looked at each other, oh my, we are. really of marijuana. It's like being around people who are stoned and not a stoner. So I said, are we? They said, yeah, it's a contact high, we'll go away soon. And by lunch, the fog had cleared, and we threw ourselves back into the fray. And so the High Times guys came up to me, the guys running the thing, they said, so what do you think? I said, I think it's a good event. You know, I met half the people here, they're insanely friendly, and I can't wait for the day where you have cannabis cup and no one shows up. He goes, well, what do you mean? I said, I can't wait for the time the marijuana is just nothing in America. Like when you go to home, you go to Amsterdam and say, hash, yeah, the only people who smoke hash in this town are tourists. Because the locals, indifference has set in. And they just go on with their life. Hey, you have all the hash going over there? Yep. And I'm too busy to smoke hash because I have a life. And I said, I can't wait for that to happen, where people don't have to dress in like 90 million colors and run around and go, hurrah, hurrah. But it's go ahead. I buy marijuana when I want. And I went to a dispensary a few weeks later in Denver. And there's a line around the block at 9 a.m. when it opens. And the demographic was fascinating. There's your college students that come on their bike to buy some weed. There are a couple of stoner guys. A lot of senior citizens. There's a lot of the elderly. I'm like, wow, pain medication maybe. Or they're retired, they don't have to go to work, and the sci-fi channel's on. Or, I don't know. I get to judge, I don't think so. But it was interesting to see so many old codgers in line to get their weed hooked up. Love that. And so hopefully this country will evolve. I think the rest of the world is running at the future. Obviously, you've all heard about what is happening in Germany, where they're kind of abolishing college tuition. They're basically saying, guess what? It's free. And not every single young person is going to go running in college. And their version of college is a bit different than ours. It's not 4 years of fraternities. It's a bit more austere. You'll probably live at home or a small apartment. Come on to campus and drive away. It's like a community college. But they're basically saying, we're going to make the opportunity to become really smart. Really available to a lot of people. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not Nostradamus, but I bet within 2 or 3 generations, that country is going to spike in intellect. They're going to embrace science. They are going to get so on the solar grid. They're going to get their straws out of the Middle East. They are going to innovate their way out of diminishing and dwindling natural resources. They will find their future through science. They will not catch through religion. They'll find their way through intellect. That's how you avoid filling your jails with people. Your jails are full of dumbass people who didn't get in front of a book often enough. So they're not bad people. Something was done to them, like the president said. More education, the prison's empty. More education, you have a secure nation. More education, everyone becomes funny. You have a nation of funny people. Why? Because they're intelligent. You don't want to get mugged in the parking lot away with work. Have a nation full of smart people, and no one can be bothered to mug you when you're in your car. I'm not saying all crime would go away, but it would be such a drop in crime. You would notice it, and it wouldn't take much. It would just take people doubling and tripling down on my show in Detroit last night, and 2 to 3 or 4 interviews I did asked one question: what do you think the future of Detroit is? I said, the future of Detroit is the future of America. And one guy said, do you think it's all over for Detroit? And I said, are you kidding? Not by a long shot. It's an amazing city. Michigan's a gorgeous state. It's a beautiful state full of deciduous trees and really kick-ass people. And Detroit's a gorgeous city. It just needs investment. It needs all those people who sent all those jobs to Honduras, Guatemala, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Thailand. And I like all those people too. But if all those jobs came back, all of a sudden all those people have jobs, and that city becomes this massive engine of optimism and the future. And it takes all those companies to invest in America, to put all of their chips and shove it right into America. We are invested completely in America. Anything else to me is unpatriotic. If you're just going to benefit the stockholders, kiss my ass. I was in a Southeast Asia, and I was walking around Phnom Penh, just wandering around, and I staggered back to the hotel completely drenched with sweat. The locals are always dry and good looking. I'm always just like sopping wet. I admire their sleep. They just wear full clothes and I get dry, and I was like, I'm a visitor. Anyway, I'm in the lobby, and 2 Western women come up to me like, wow, you're Henry Rollins. I'm like, I said, said, so white ladies, what are you doing? And we work for Levi's. I'm like, oh yeah, Levi's, who took the last of their employees out of their country a few years ago. The most American garment known in America is no longer made in America, right? You all get that. You moved your labor force. They said, well, we have a few people making the high-end shoes, but yeah, by and large, we moved the employment. I go, yeah, to some place where you can pay people $1 a year, right? Well, we're here in Cambodia. I said, okay, so what are you doing in Cambodia? She said, well, in defense of the Levi Strauss family, we come every fiscal quarter to inspect the place, make sure it was in bathroom breaks, ventilation, and no one's being put upon unfairly. I said, well, good for you. But you know, like I know, that those jobs, the people of Cambodia did nothing but nice to me. But those jobs should be back in Appleton, Wisconsin. You know that, and I know it. And I love having this conversation with you, freaking Phnom Penh, in a hotel lobby. And they're like, and that's what it's on. The people who really push the big rocks around, they went elsewhere. And that's why I gotta keep finding the good stories. Because if I don't, I just get so mad, I become paralytic with anger. And here's something else, a story that actually has a bookmark now that has an end. Years ago, I was working for National Geographic. It was my dream job. I come from Washington, D.C. I was born and raised near the National Geographic Museum. My mom had the magazine for the entirety of my young life. I would go through it, and I look at these people with like huge hoops in their ears. I see the pyramids, I see the Sphinx. I'm like, I want to see all of that. I want baggy tan shorts and a pith helmet and a magnifying glass. I want to be in a canoe going up a river. I want to go to the Yucatan. I want to go up the Nile. I want to do this, man. And I was raised on National Geographic. I want to see that color and that vibrancy. I want to have someone put red paint on me, man. I want to do that. I want to be Chucky West Jr. And so when I got to start doing documentaries for National Geographic, it's all I wanted to do. I said, I just want to be a National Geographic explorer for the rest of my life. This is how I want to end it. I will be a Nat Geo guy with the magnifying glass and the pith helmet. We sent him into the deepest, darkest parts of Africa. We haven't seen him for 2.5 years. Damn, I want that action. And I don't care if I get bit by something or my head torn off by a bunch of hyenas. I'd be dying, and this was awesome. At least I wouldn't die over in Cortland watching some cable channel sitting in a Naga high barca lounger. I want to be eating my hyenas there, I said. And so when I put a Nat Geo, I was like, I have arrived. And so one moment, we're doing an episode of a thing called the Animal Underworld, and we're doing a thing about animals used in worship. And in America, as you know, in parts of Canada, there are Pentecostals, and they often take out rattlesnake stockings or water moccasins and dance around with them. And the street logic, the short idea, the bigger idea, is that if your faith is strong, you won't get bitten. Or if you do get bitten, if your faith is strong enough, then it will have no effect on you because your faith is strong. If you get bitten and you die, good old college trying that wasn't strong enough. Sorry, I should have prayed harder. I don't know. But they do this, and you've seen films of it, and if you've seen these films, often you'll see musicians playing in the background. You're like, wait a minute, a band is playing, and people are dancing around with copper heads, what looks like timber rattlesnakes, Crotalus horridus, and they're dancing around, and you're like, that's like the wildest party I've ever seen. I used to see those videos. I'm like, oh, I want a front row seat, because I like gospel music, I love snakes, and I really want to be at this party. And so we start calling Pentecostal churches in America to see if we can film a Pentecostal church meeting. And every single one of them says no. And we say, why? They say, because you're going to come and film us, take us out of context, make us look foolish, and put it on TV. And our faith is real, and we're not going to be laughed at. We kept explaining to them, we are National Geographic. We're not going to make fun of you. We're completely objective. We're just trying to show the role of snakes in your church process. And there it is. And he said, no. But our producer Abigail was persistent. And so she founded a church in Middlesboro, Kentucky, who said yes. So we landed at the Pastor J.D. Coots. We landed at the pastor's place weeks later, and I meet him, and I take him off to the side while the camera guys are setting up. I said, Pastor, my name's Henry. I'm the host. I'm going to be interviewing you. Here's what we're doing. We're not here to make fun of you, sir. I've got nothing but respect we're here just to understand what you do and why you do it, and we want to film it. And that's it, and then we're out of here. And he goes, well, okay, I trust you. I said, good, because you should trust us. And if this thing was going sideways, I would tell you, and I would not let it happen. So I'm not here to mess with you. So I said, can we see your snakes? Because apparently he keeps all the snakes at the church meeting. He goes, sure. Opens up this garage that is full of poisonous snakes. And we smell unfamiliar to the rattlesnakes. So they smell a bunch of sweat, they start reacting. So you hear their rattles are going off. I know a thing or two about snakes. And I'm looking, and I see a lot of canebrake rattlesnakes, which is a local snake in that part of America. Crotalus trichotodus, I believe it is. It is one of the worst bites in the world. It's a healthy cocktail of neurotoxic and hemotoxic venoms, where you start bleeding, it hurts, you swell up as your lungs go paramedic of the neurotoxins, and you die in pain. Hoorah! Don't pick them up. I just leave them alone. They're beautiful. Take a photo. Or back even better, buy a book with a photo of the snake in it. Leave it alone. Go to the zoo. Watch the Animal Channel. Just leave rattlesnakes alone. Thankfully, in nature, they'll usually leave you alone first. You're the ground, they get that out of their way. Anyway, he's got a room full of comprehensive water moccasins and canebrake rattlesnakes and deep timber rattlesnakes as well. They're an awful life. So I said, you pick these up? I said, Pastor, you pick up canebrake rattlesnakes? He said, yeah, no, that's a bite you have. He said, oh, I know. I said, wow, so explain this to me. Why do you all pick up snakes? And he said, well, we believe a part of the Bible, I believe it's part of Mark, and forgive me if I get a word wrong. It's part of Mark is what they adhere to. And these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name they shall cast out demons. They shall speak with new tongues. They shall take up serpents. If they drink any deadly thing, it shall not harm them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover. And I said, so why is that part of the Bible so meaningful to you? And what he said was fascinating. He said, because it's proof of God in the physical world. I said, well, explain that. He said, well, I get poison, but I don't die. I get bitten by a deadly poisonous snake, but I don't die. All of a sudden, I'm speaking in different tongues. This is the proof of God because it's happening in the physical world. It's beyond faith. It's proof beyond faith in your face. Okay, I'm here to learn. So I noticed the pastor is missing most of his middle finger on his right hand. I said, sir, you're missing a bit of finger. Was that where you said the snake bite? He said, yes. And why is that? Can't help myself. I said, so, what was up with you and the spirit that day? And he basically said, you can't win them all. Yeah, it's funny. And so he said, look, sometimes we have weeks after weeks of meetings and those things come out of the boxes. And so I can't guarantee you what's going to happen tonight, but you can film it. I said, sir, we're not looking for a road show. We're looking for you a night in church, and whatever happens, we'll film it. If no snakes come out, hey, that's that. So hours later, we go to the church. He was warned, all the people that the National Geographic coming with their cameras. Some people were very happy to pass for many outsiders in, they did not show up. But by and large, the place is packed. Our cameras are placed strategically in this rectangular quasi pews and then stage. There is a lectern for lecturing with a microphone, and then there are plexiglass boxes of snakes from his collection. And then there is a background of equipment. There's a bass, there's a guitar, on the side there's a drum kit and a keyboard. And it's not all the pastor snakes. The bass player in the band, he brings his own water moccasin to the show. And so there's his water moccasin, beautiful specimen, massive. It's like a 4-foot long cube, awesome thing, beautiful picture. And so all these snakes are lined up, and there's gear. We got rock and roll, we got snakes, and we have a packed house. So the pastor goes up to the microphone, folks, National Geographic is here, they're here. This is Henry Rollins, he's the host of the show. And these people are wary, but polite. So they're like, hello. I'm like, hey everyone, National Geographic, happy to be here. I'm like, okay. And the pastor says, does anyone have anything to say before we start? And someone hands raised, yeah. And the guy goes, my friend, he hurt his leg. And I think we should all pray about that leg so it gets better. And we're like, okay, hold on a minute. Work on that leg for a minute. Anyone else? The guy raises his hand, like, yeah, my friend's roof caved in, and we should go go over there and help him fix his roof. And we should pray about that. And everybody, okay, well, let's get everything together, work on that roof, and let's pray about it for a minute and do that. And then anyone else, no hands, and he says, okay, so let's start. And he walks away from the mic, and he walks up to the guitar case, and he opens it, and he pulls out a beautiful Les Paul gold top guitar, and puts it on, and plugs it, and turns on his gear, and starts playing. And this guy is one serious guitar player. He's ripping these blues licks. I'm like, damn, Pastor! And I want to ejaculate with my sweet. I want to go, if you're a blues badass, and we're in church, I was like, and he's just like, just burning. And the big bass player guy gets out of the audience, and he picks up the big P bass and puts it on, plugs in, gets the stage tune. The pastor's son gets on out of the pews, gets behind the drum kit. The kid is a badass drummer. He's leaning way back. I'm like, I got some guts in your ass right now. I'm like, all right. And they kind of land on the one of some song that's in halftime. So you clap your hands to it. It's got a nice pocket. The bass player's really in it with the kick and the snare of the drummer. I'm like, damn, this is all right. Guitar player's rocking. Everyone starts singing some song about God. And it's a really beautiful song. And I'm not too cool for school. If I like your band, I'm a fan. And I like this band, so I start clapping along. I'm like, all right. And the song goes for like 3 minutes or so, then it kind of peters out, and then the bass player goes, how about this one? Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, and land on one of that, and another song. And it kind of goes until people kind of go, they get on my happy. And so that kind of trails off. And now people start getting up. And the heat in this place rises, because it's summertime, it's hot, the doors are closed, and it starts getting warm. I start sweating, because I'm clapping. People start getting up, and they become very animated. There's a man, he's so large, he has to come in with like a walker thing because of his size. He starts singing, whoa, people all around me, is this really happening? Meanwhile, our cameraman is whipping to the crowd, and look on my faces. Oh, here's the man in his 50s with his mind completely blown. And I'm like, damn, this is wild. And so all of this is happening. And all of a sudden, an old woman comes out of the pews, and she's as old as papers. And she staggers over, and she's got straight white hair. She's like, that's her room in the parking lot. And she slaps the shoulder of the pastor's son, the drummer, like, and he gets the drumsticks in his voice. She sits down. She wasn't in her seats, and she's a badass that he was. I'm like, damn, kid, creation all back to like, yeah, that's a God in this. And I'm like, yeah. And now the turpentine comes out, the big guy who's now sweating through his clothes. He's like drinking poison, speaking in tongues, and the woman's laying down this badass beat. And then this woman I call the keyboard music. So you can watch this church on YouTube, and tell me I'm exaggerating. The mute woman gets up, and she's a young girl. She sits behind the keyboard, turns it on, and just starts banging the keyboard. The most beautiful music comes out of the keyboard because she's so proud of the age. She's kicking your ass like a scat session where she's like Booker T. She's kicking ass on this keyboard, and then she leans into a mic and starts singing. And her voice has this uncanny beauty to it. It's like, I want to buy your record. And when she starts singing, Graham's kicking on drums. Now everyone is up, and the place is pumping. And now the snakes start coming out. And our cameraman is striking distance. He wants to get this close-up shot. I'm like, if you get hit in the face by any of these snakes, the best thing I can do for you is shoot you in the head and take you into this ring. I'm like, oh, no, get hit in the face. And then our cameraman, like, oh, no, don't do it. And they feel like they're dancing around, candy the snakes to each other. Jump! The woman's giving the drumsticks back to the pastor's son. She now has 2 copperheads. And she's like kissing them and dancing around. And everyone's drinking turpentine, and the heat is rising, and the music is swelling. And this goes on for well over an hour without a stop. I am now showing armpit stain on my shirt. And finally they bring it down. And like the bass player now has the match of his favorite water moccasin weighs like 40 pounds, and ooh, I'm like, don't do it. And they give the microphone and pass it around so people can talk about how much they love God. And the huge guy, like, I love God, I really love God. I hear you, man. And then they give the mic to the bass player who puts down his snake for a little while. He was like, I used to do drugs. Boo! The devil was in me. Boo! But then I found God. Yay! And now I believe in God and everything is great. Yay! It's like, and the drama of another song was the best rock concert I saw that year. Non-stop passion over 110% sincerity for 2 hours and 50 minutes. It was like running this gauntlet to get through it. It was intense. And finally the pastor is like soaked in sweat. The band is worn out. Keyboard mutant girl is going back to the cues. Okay. Does anyone else have anything they want to say? And I'm like, whew. I left it on stage, man. He's like, okay, see you Thursday. It's like 2 days from now. Really? They do this like 3 nights a week. And everyone kind of like, puts their chairs back and they just prepare to leave. And our camera gear's going away. And I stand by the front door and I talk to people as they leave. And they're like, well, thanks for coming to visit us. I said, hey, thanks for having us. And they're incredibly nice. And one guy came up to me and said, thank you for not judging us. And I said, you're welcome. I thought the music was great. I would never advise handling American pit vipers so close to your face. It's just crazy, but you were great doing it. And no, and finally, this is me, the pastor's son, drummer, keyboard mutant girl, drummer granny, and one other person that cleaned up the church. I'm sitting with the pastor. So I said, sir, that was crazy. That was amazing. I gotta tell you, sir, you are one serious blues player. And he says, that was the Lord's music. He said, pardon? I used to have a Stratocaster, and that just wasn't making it. So I got that Les Paul, I'm rocking now, partner. I was like, I would have to say, yeah, you are, and yeah, you did. So I said, look, I'm going to go out on a limb here. Can I come back and visit sometime? Because I love the music. I think handling snakes in that way is incredibly dangerous, but you got the spirit, so you're okay, I guess. But I'd like to come back sometime if that is at all possible. He said, you're always welcome in this church anytime. I would love to have you back. And we exchanged phone numbers. But we're exchanging phone numbers. We are pastor. Are we having this conversation? We did. And we leave, and we get in our vans and go back to this hotel we're staying at. And we drive back almost in silence. Because we went in there judging him. Like, yeah, we got some snakes, look wacky, hijinks, so we could be filming. And we walked out one mile, and it was amazing. The conduct was completely dangerous, but interesting, and they really need it. And we should not judge people because we just got our mouths all shut up. And we got them back to their respective rooms, kind of quiet. Wow, that was a very moving experience. See? And the next day we all get back in the van and drive somewhere else. And so weeks go by, and I think I'm back in Los Angeles. My cell phone rings, and I don't know many people. I live alone in Crystal Gardens. And so my cell phone doesn't ring all that much. It rings, and I don't recognize the number. And I know, this is Henry. Hey, it's Pastor Jamie. Pastor, hey man, I'm just checking up on you. I'm fine. How are you? I'm fine. And we talked for a while. I said, hey man, come visit me sometimes. You do that. And we hung up. Now, if you remember February of this year, February 2014, you might have read that a pastor in Kentucky was doing a church service and was bitten by a rattlesnake, and he killed him. That was Pastor Jamie Coots. Wow. So he's gone. But in that time, one of the people in National Geographic, a young aggressive gal who was climbing her way up the Nat Geo ladder, was there when we filmed, she said to herself, you know what? This would be a good reality show. And she pitched it to National Geographic, who's so desperate to stay in the ratings, they now are trying to clone the Discovery Channel. And where 10 years ago they would have said, a reality show about people who pick up snakes in the church, that is below the caliber of National Geographic. But in 2014, 13. It's not. And they do some show, rattlesnake redemption or some corny thing, and the pastor and the people turn into a reality show. The pastor was born in the South, into the gospel, but he died on TMZ, and TMZ covered the freakish death of the pastor from the reality show on Nat Geo. So he went in as a man of the cloth, but he went out as Honey Boo Boo. And one of the people from Nat Geo wrote me and said, hey, you weren't kidding about the toxicity of those snakes. And I am loath to write an angry email because I realized they remain forever, but I couldn't help myself. I said, way to be on Discovery, way to take the National Geographic flag and flush it down the toilet, way to have the Discovery Channel eat your lunch every single day. You weak sellout, you are now a fake channel to me. You can just kiss my ass. I've never heard back from them. Don't have me like me anymore. But I think I'm right about that. And I learned a real lesson from the pastor. And I was right. We shouldn't be holding those snakes like that. Because I think it was a cane break that killed them. And so I was right about that one. And I don't know about the spirit. It's not for you to tell me about your spirituality. I can't tell you about the intense nature of hemotoxic and neurotoxic venom from Crotalus trichotis. Anyway, he's dead, and that happened. Here's something else. Years ago, we had a president. You remember him, and I'm not here to go on and on about him. He had an amazing way with the English language, where I didn't know if he was an odd poet or playing multi-dimensional chess with the English language, or just trying to piss off dead writers like Mark Twain, who would actually use the English language. He would say 5 things. Really, terrorize, and I followed this guy because I could not bring myself to hate him. I disliked his policy, but I never hated the man. I don't think he's hateable. I really don't. I bought his book that doesn't have footnotes, a presidential autobiography with no footnotes. Wow. It was like a Crayola coloring book. Footnotes. I did not skim over it. I read it in its entirety. Underlined passages and took notes. My takeaway from reading decision points for going inside. My takeaway was he is a very likable guy who is very moral. And they said, what's the worst thing ever happened in the presidency? He said, Kanye West said that I don't care about black people, and that really hurt me. And I really believe that. I bet he doesn't hate black people, or doesn't care about black people, what Mr. West said. I bet he does. I just think he got some really bad information. So his policy, I think got a lot of good people killed. But the man himself, I don't think he's bad. And why do I not think that? Because of those awful paintings he makes. I'm not an artist. But here's why he makes the paintings. This is my opinion. He's trying to forget responsibility, all those beautiful young people that he sparked, and all those innocent people that died for no good reason. He's trying to keep from drinking. Like, I'm just going to paint dogs and paint my paint one day. I'm going to paint myself, I'm going to paint my foot. And if they want to say God and not have the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people yelling in my little brain. And that's what he does, to stay from doing something else. But he's also my travel agent and my tour guide. Whenever the down is bad, full of people doers. I say, one please, and I would go to these countries because he said they were bad. Because I will not give up on the human race. I will not give up on Homo sapiens. Why? Because I meet too many good ones to think that all is over. And so the ones I meet make me want to learn more, make me want to meet more people. I'm not a people person, I'm shy and withdrawn. But I like people. I'm kind of alien, but I'm a fan of them. They're very nice to me. They come to my shows, and I like to meet them. We touch each other. We shake hands. We do photos. It's a very nice relationship. I don't always understand them. And I spend a lot of my time by myself, to the point where people think I must have bodies in my backyard. But fear not, I don't have a backyard. And so I get good examples of humanity all the time, and I find them all over the world. But before we talk about that, let's so there's one mini vignette, there's one tiny anecdote of just how amazing people are. I was in Austin, Texas, one of the most swinging cities in all of America. See, for those of you who have no reaction, you've not been to Austin. Some of the best foods, some of the finest people, some of the best damn bands per block. It's like 10 bands per block. Every other building's a venue or a restaurant. It's really nice. And Texas is a great place. I hear it's a little violent in life. But by and large, it is a wonderful place. Even the Texans I disagree with, they're usually very big-hearted people. I've spent a lot of time in Texas. And for this thing we did for History Channel this year, we did a thing 10 things that don't know about Texas. And me and a historian redrew Texas for fun. Texas has a thing in their own constitution where they can divide themselves and add 4 more states inside their border. So they can have 5 states in Texas, which would be a very interesting thing to the Electoral College. And so they outlined Texas on the board for me and this Texas historian. And we both had an opportunity to divide up Texas into 5 states as we saw fit. And the historian is very strategic. He makes it into strips. I go, why strips? He goes, so everyone gets beachfront property. And I went, wow, that's cool. So he does his explanation and they erase it. And I think what I'm about to do is going to piss him off. I was right. I said, can you loosely put dots for like Austin, Houston, Dallas, the big cities. And so he dotted them all up. And I drew little circles. So there's a little circle around Houston, a little circle around Dallas, and the 4 of the big cities. He goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm building a Berlin Wall around Houston, Dallas, and wherever the other 2. And the rest of the country, the vast majority of Texas, will be Austin. Because I think Austin should be the entire state of Texas, like the mental state of Texas, like gay people, hoorah, have a burrito, let's rock. The rest of you Texans, with your points of view, you should pay people $4 a year to come in your car. Minimum wage subsistence. Okay, whatever you say about it. We're going to move you behind a very tall retaining wall, taller than the one that keeps Israel away from Palestine. But we're really nice. We're going to throw food over the wall for you. So you won't starve, you won't experience dehydration. You're just not going to get out very often. The rest of us are going to have a great time because most of Texas will be Austin. And the guy will be like, okay, he was pissed. And the judge was like, oh boy. Hey, don't give me a show if you don't want what I think. Anyway, I try to go as far and as wide as I can to get information. Like I said 2 hours ago, you can still feel your asses in your seats. I never talk about a country I haven't been to because I just can't come across any truth. And so whenever that particular president said, here are people on terrorists, I said, oh, I better go. And I got all 3 access to evil countries. It took me quite a long time, 3 years in fact, but I did get a visa to go to North Korea. And I had a very interesting time there, stomaching and swallowing hours of propaganda given to me by one of my 2 tour spies who were on me every single day. I was in Pyongyang. One who did not say anything, just took notes, and the other was telling me how Kim Il-sung invented the solar system and water and agriculture, and how the mighty North Korean Navy is the mightiest in the world, and America is cowering in fear. And I realized if I held my watch, some kind of stealth bomber could fly over and tell his people what time it was. That's how much we have the eyeball on North Korea. Like if they do anything, that whole country's a parking lot. So they go, we're going to take over the world. Because like, okay, whatever you say, Junior. Because as Bill Hicks used to say, pull up B5, Tommy. That's what I would get from North Korea. And I'm not trying to make money, I'm just saying they don't have the military capability that they say they do in the brochure. And so what I try to do is act like the dumbest tourist to see if I can get information out of my tour guide to Ken. So I say, how did you guys do in the World Cup in big soccer game in South Africa? Oh, we did very well. I said, really? How many games did you win? Well, we didn't. Oh, so, wait, you won almost enough games. You went to the championship, and no, we didn't win any games. But, so how did you do really? You did really well, but you lost. You see, when you win, you're victorious. When you lose and lose and lose and lose, you're sucking, is what you're doing. And so, what is the exact effort? So obviously you went to root the North Korean soccer team on, right? No, I didn't. Why not? Why didn't you go? Couldn't get babysit for the kid? Because he can't get out. It's like, and I wanted to tell him that he can't leave. And he's not exactly catching on, but his propaganda is so strong that he is not allowed to tell me. Then we find ourselves at the Kim Il-sung Mausoleum, where you go on this 11-minute moving sidewalk ride where you're not allowed to walk. You go through the crime room where a woman recounts the history of Kim Il-sung and cries in front of you, and you're supposed to cry too, but just can't do it. Then you go down the hallway where rotating brushes scrub your feet, and then you go into a room with a vacuum-sealed body of Kim Il-sung in a glass box, and you try not to explode in laughter and ask the men holding rifles if they're not in 8th grade and preserving the frog from biology class. Is that kind of what's like when you're like, really? Would you bury that thing, you weirdos? And Kim, the tour guide, says to me, when I bow, you bow. And I thought, okay, because if I don't bow, he gets in trouble, and I'm not going to get this guy in trouble. He's like 26 years old, he's a big guy. So you bow on one side of the guy, you bow the feet, you bow on the other side, 3 bows in a round. And on the second bow, they come up from the bow, and he goes in, thank you, no problem, dude. At that moment, I came up with a joke. I always look for humor in this situation, because life is so short, you might as well laugh some. And I wanted to lay this one line on Kim and get his reaction right next to the stiff body of Kim Il-sung. I wanted to grab him by the lapels of his jacket. Kim, dude, he just blinked at me. And to get his reaction, I could see myself salting away to North Korean prison, and I could see President Clinton not coming to get me. And not a woman. So I've been doing this show from 2 Dixie cups and a bunch of devil floss. I'm in prison right now for the rest of my life for the worst joke I ever came up with. So we leave the dead body of Kim Il-sung, and now we are beholding Kim Il-sung Square, which is the mightiest square of concrete I've ever seen in my life. It goes from here to Miami. It is impossible. It's like a cityscape of flatness. This is Kim Il-sung Square, much bigger than Tiananmen Square, and that's where I saw my name. I said, well, you know, I've been to Tiananmen Square many times. Kim, how many times have you been to Tiananmen Square? I haven't. Well, Tiananmen Square is much bigger than Kim Il-sung Square. Then he smiles, because he has all the numbers in his head. No, ours is, and he has the exact dimensions of how much bigger his is than the one in Beijing. And I said, oh, you didn't get the memo. You're not on the Tiananmen Square mailing list. You get these mail outs whenever they do something. They just put an addition on. And it's like 9 miles that way, and it is the biggest square. But I tell you what, I like your square better because it's cuter, because it's so small. I don't put it in my pocket taking home, is what I like to do. In fact, I would like you to give me the dimensions of Kim Il-sung Square, because I want to build one to scale in my backyard. Because America's got a whole lot of property. And I like to build this so I can remember my time in North Korea. He got so mad at me. He walked through the car without me. It's the only time I was in the streets of North Korea without supervision. He's like, I'm just big strong. I can't come back, but they're just joshing me up. And we get to the last day, and that's when humanity comes to the fore. And we're at the airport, and my travel agent said, tip these people, anyone you meet and work with here, your tour guides, whatever, tip them generously, because they're not getting much, and they have families. You can really help them. Use euros, they can cash those in. And so I bring a lot of euros, and I give a lot to the angry woman who never spoke to me, just took notes, and I give a whole lot to Kim. And I give a lot to the driver who works, they drove us around. And Kim sees all the money, and he likes me. I like him, he's a nice guy. And he goes, one day I will come to visit you in America. And I'm thinking to myself, no, you won't. Like, how are you going to do that, Kim? Are you going to mug and kill 50 cats, take their bladders, make a hot air balloon, and sail them down to China? You're going to dig underneath the soil, underneath all the anti-tank making personnel landmines, the soul, emerge? What are you going to do? He said, you and I are friends. I said, yeah, man, we're friends. And I said, tell you what, you will get to know me. And when you do, not if you do, when you do, you find me on a thing called the internet. It's amazing. You find me on the internet, and I will pick you up at your hotel, and I will take you out for the best burrito you've ever had. He said, yes, what's a burrito? I said, doesn't matter. When you eat it, you will become a burrito addict. So Ken, until then, we shut up. I got in an airplane, and like 3 hours later, I'm walking the choking small streets of Beijing in search of that tasty overpriced coffee. Feeling freedom, man. And what I keep finding in all these countries, I find good people in bad government. There's nothing wrong with people in North Korea that democracy couldn't fix. There's nothing in North Korea that couldn't be fixed by literacy and medicine and science and no guarantee. And a lot of people visiting going, here's level surface, he said, rock on. This is work. I use music to create havoc. I got a letter several weeks ago from an amazing kid. He wrote me, dear man, I'm 17 years old. I'm gay. I live in Utah. I'm like, oh, wow. I'm your fan already. And I came out to my parents. They're not into it. They're going to send me to a camp to straighten me out. I'm like, oh, no. And he said, we don't have any music here. There's like 4 songs on the school computer. There's no record stores. I have no access to music. What's punk rock? I've heard about it, and I think I've heard 1 or 2 songs my friend has, but could you help me out with that? I'm like, I have to send the account. I said, kiddo, do you have an ability to upload MP3s? He goes, yeah, I have a laptop my parents don't know. I said, oh, damn, we are going to rock. I've been sent to this kid Berlin airlift of rock and roll. This kid is up to here, bad legs, Fugazi, Black Sabbath, John Coltrane, Slipknot, Stooges. And he said, this is it. I said, yeah, man, this is going to save you. I said, look, that camp's not going to break it anything. You are who you are, and you're great. And one day you'll be 18, and you can kiss all of that goodbye, and you can split. And anytime you want to come to my show, partner, you just write me, and that's a done deal. Because, pal, I want to shake your hand. And hopefully I'll meet him. And that vignette, and I forgot to tell you before I got into the travel thing, was the scene that happened in Austin. Oh yeah, Austin. Okay. Well, that's not another thing. But I should get back to the highway eventually. So I did a show in Austin a while ago, and it's a really good time. And I came out and talked to people out by the tour bus. It's very dark. We're in an alley with one overhead light. Guy walks up to me, and he hands me something. He's like, here, I want you to have this. I'm like, okay. Looks like a big rubber band. But it's one of those rubber bracelets that people used to wear before Lance Armstrong confessed to taking chemicals and now and so he hands me one, and it's black. And so I have to shine blue light to read. There's a guy's name and a date a few months before the date I was in at that moment. I said, what is this? He goes, that's my brother. He died in Afghanistan a few weeks ago, and we made 100 of those. My family made these. Me and my brother, our thing was to come to your show. We would do that together. Every time you would come to town, we did that together. My brother loved you, and I never want you to forget him. So I want you to have this. And I said, I got it, man. I got it. Thank you so much. I'm really sorry for your loss. He said, yeah. I said, how's your family? He said, it's my mom is having a really hard time. I said, I can't imagine. But sadly, I can kind of sort of imagine. I said, damn, I'm so sorry. At one point, we're having this discussion. Everyone around us is being respectfully quiet when they're listening. A girl walks up to him from his left side and said, you lost your brother in Afghanistan? He said, yeah. She said, I just lost my brother in Afghanistan. And she starts weeping. He starts weeping. And they run at each other and they just hug. And they're standing there rocking back and forth, their tears commingling as their faces are smashed into each other. And the whole place goes silent as they watch these 2 people create this engine of misery. And like they're egging each other on, like your brother died, my brother died, and the misery gets together, gets emboldened, and now it's super misery. It's been hybridized. And like now it's like misery on steroids, and they're just holding on to each other so they both just don't fall apart. And they finally break apart, they're both breathing, and we're all like, oh, they're breathing, so we can breathe. And we're like, whoa, and no one will say anything. And I finally went, okay, everyone, permission to speak. And everyone's kind of like, yeah. And they went away. And the next day, the girl wrote me, and she said, hey, I'm the girl who lost the brother in Afghanistan. If you ever get an email from that guy, I want you to write me and give me his email address because I want to talk to him again. And I said, yes, ma'am, I'll do that. The guy never wrote me. But that's what happens in your country. And that's what happens when people go, we're going to go and kick some ass. That's what happens when Bill O'Reilly has strategic plans for battle. These wars were not over very quickly. They last for decades. And when someone dies, it's more than the death of a person. It's the death of a family. It's the death of a wife and a family. It's heartbreak, like you could put margarine on toast, man. And some of you sadly know exactly what I'm talking about. And to see the bravery and the integrity of these two people, it makes me understand that humanity is not over. Homo sapiens are not dead. The idea of humanity isn't dead. And any cynicism I have is ill and unwarranted in that it's just me being intellectually and morally lazy and cowardly. Humans are fine. They just need better stuff to do. Less rifles, more Rollins albums, more pizza, more sex, more education. I think they would be better. And that's if I had a preference, I would be the most ridiculous presidential candidate I've ever. He's the pizza sex Rollins candidate. He's coming from the Parliament Funkadelic corner. He's the most ridiculous man on the circuit. It'd be so much fun to actually get into it with Rand Paul about the Ramones. What? I don't know about that. Don't get me started. Anyway, I go to these places to get the story, to dig it, and to bring it back to you. I had this punk rock idea of going to Haiti. I'm going to go to Haiti with a fistful of money, and I'm going to help. That's what I did. I went to Port-au-Prince, Haiti. I found a company that rents cars. And I rented a man and a car, a guy named Jimmy. So Jimmy comes to the hotel to pick me up. And he says, okay, good morning, Mr. Rollins. I said, Jimmy, call me Henry. Morning, I'm a maniac. I am a maniac. Get ready. He's like, what does that mean? I said, let's go, we'll see. Because I'm a wild, crazy guy. So we get in the car. He said, what do you want to do? He said, I want to go to 10 cities. And I want to meet people in 10 cities. He went, oh, no. You can't go to 10 cities. You could lose an arm. I said, oh, no, they'll be wowed by our dazzling smiles and my natural curiosity. We will prevail with curiosity, because it's built for me in every other country I've ever been to. He said, this is me. Curiosity doesn't really work here. He has a lot of miserable people. He said, and I am here to help. In the spirit of Thomas Jefferson and Joe Strummer, I'm taking punk rock on the road. And so he goes, okay, it's your tour. And so we go into a tent city, and people crowd around me because I'm this weird tattooed Westerner in their zone. And I notice off to my side a massively deflated water bladder. It used to hold thousands of gallons of water. It's now got like a Dixie cup of water in it. So I said, okay, you don't have enough water. I can't help that. But I got my pal Jimmy, I've got some money, and I've got some desire. Is there anything I can get for you today that would help? And one guy, Jimmy said, yeah, we can use some bars of soap for washing up. Because, keeping clean in that environment is kind of tough. It's a pretty sweaty place. And clean clothes gives you a lot of dignity, so that's good to go. Clean clothes for it's soap and soccer balls for the kids. So I said, I can bring you soap and soccer balls, and that would help. They went, yeah, but you won't bring any soap or soccer balls. I said, oh, you have no idea, man. Once I get an idea in my head, that's all I think about. All that's on my mind right now is soap and soccer balls. Goodbye, and I leave. And I'm so barely out of the tent city. She's really happy. Where are we going? To the store with a ton of soap and soccer balls. And he's like, you are a maniac. I said, oh, we're only getting worked up. And so we go to the supermarket, and I go baskets on this article, like the hand baskets. I go, here, load up, here we go. We find the soap section, and look at these buckets of like hotel-sized soaps, 8 cents a pop. We just dump them all into our carts. We find the soccer ball section. It's like a can of like kind of cheap soccer balls. You kick them 5 times, they explode. But the soccer balls, we take all of it. We put hundreds of bars of soap and soccer balls on the cash. There's no wait. 1, 2, 3, 307, 308, 511. We bought all the soap. And it was like, get out of my store. So and now we have these massive $1 plastic bags stretched to the limit full of soap and soccer balls. We go back to the tent city, and men and women run at us and grab the bags. The soap bags explode like pinatas. The soap goes everywhere into the dirt. The soccer balls explode and roll away. The kids grab the soccer balls and run. The adults are now diving into the dirt, fighting over soap. Me wanting to help and not knowing what the hell I was doing. There's a big asshole in the tent city. It was me. Now men and women are fighting over soap. One guy has a handful of soap and dirt. His clothes are now dirty because he's sweating and he's now living in the dirt. His ex-friend, who used to be his pal, has no bars of soap and a handful of the guy with soap's throat. They're about to beat each other up over about 80 cents worth of soap. I did that. Finally, this man walks over and starts yelling, and everyone stops. He's the alpha male who runs the tent city. And he looks at what I case all the soap he has, gives all the soap bars to women and keeps one for himself, and everyone becomes completely meek. And he walks up to Jimmy, looking at me, talking to Jimmy. He's like, basically, who the hell is your friend? And what the hell did you think you were doing, walking into my tent city with bags of soap? You just created a mini riot. And Jimmy's translating to me, and the guy says, if you want to help, I have a cell phone, believe it or not. Yes, I live in Phil, but I have a cell phone. Who would have thought? Here's my number. You want to do something this half-assed again? You call me. And I can't help myself. I think I have a good idea here. I'm like, okay, I'm really sorry about the mini riot over the soap. Can we come back tomorrow with more soap and soccer balls? You're like, just call me. I'm like, okay. And we came back the next day with soap and soccer balls. And we called the guy, and he lines up everyone. And he did it in a very orderly fashion. Every person got a bar of soap. The kids got soccer balls. And you're like, whoo! And everyone leaves with their piece of soap. That's how you do it. You have to get the hell out of my tent city. Like, okay, sir. And I said, do it now over Prince. We go and we talk to the church leader or the one alpha male leader of the pack. He said, hey, we'd like to make a donation. And I found out you could, if there's a church leader, you could give a cash donation against the kids and the people. And so I started making cash donations and donations of things in the correct fashion for the rest of the week. And one point, Jimmy says, what thing great from all this? And meet some kids who've been orphaned from the earthquake. And I'm like, yeah, because he doesn't like kids. And so I said, yes, and let's look at some orphanages, because you can be the head of the orphanage, I know them all, you can make a cash donation and really make a difference, and the kids will play with you. I said, done. So we get to the first orphanage, and the kids see me, and I look like the human jungle gym with bad tattoos. I am clean white western, I don't look like them, and I have like these erotic tattoos from the Reagan era. And these kids come running up to me, and they grab my arms like they're just accessories, and they're showing them to other people. Look at this one's really stupid. And these kids are screaming and laughing. And if I'm a figure of fun for a bunch of 4-year-olds, if that was my full-time job, it'd be fine with me. So I'm like, laugh on, sir. And so I moved ahead in a place, I gave her a wedge of money. And I said, great place to have. And she tells me all the stuff to do for the kids. And one beautiful young child comes up to me like this, hug me. And what are you going to do? Like, no, I don't like children. I mean, everything in you, your DNA goes, I am alive to do this. And you grab this beautiful kid and you go, whoa, air brakes. And I suddenly realized what I had started. It was the lesson from the other day. If you want to help, you better be ready to go all in or not at all. If you go in half-assed, oh no, you better get ready for a 60-hour day. That's going to take aspirin at the end. Because if you want to help, you have to be there, all in or not at all. I picked up the first kid, swung him around, and put him down. The entirety of the orphanage lines up. And I'm like, oh boy, my back is going to hurt at the end of this one. But I'm a performer. I'm a racehorse. I will go around the track as many damn times as it takes. I'm going to pick up every kid in this orphanage until I die. And that's not to work. And I'm counting them. 28. Wow. I can't think to you like, okay. I hate kids. What the hell do you want? Alright, I'm like Jane and Santa. That's all I got to get out of here. And I think that the head one had a clicker. She said, okay, Henry, you could leave now. You picked up every kid like 2.4 times. And throw me back in line, because they start looking familiar. Like, hey, and they're just like, what else do they have to do that day? Is get picked up by the guy with bad tattoos who's now showing visible signs of ass. And so finally they wave me off, and then, the kids go, yay, they think they're doing something else. And I helped a lot of kids in the 80s. Didn't get pink eye. I'll help. Before you ever say that on any kind of real scale, other than helping your bro move or helping someone wash their car, when you really want to help someone, you better get ready to give a lot of time to it. I was one of the many people, and some of you were in that wonderful alliance that we helped get West Memphis 3 out of prison a few years ago. Really gives up people basically saying, not on my watch, Arkansas. And we got them out. Got them out with music, we got them out with confrontation, cash contributions from everything from $20 to the unbelievable amounts of money that Eddie Vedder and Johnny Depp and Natalie Mays and Peter Jackson got. Like more money like they could have bought Honduras, but they have the money and they did. Those are really good people and they really did. And eventually these people who were wrongly accused, who lost their use in prison, they got out because of something we did, because enough people got mad enough and took Arkansas, which really needs to lose the flapping gills and twitching primordial tail and come to the 20th century with the rest of us. They got taught a lesson of the power of people and the power of people and the power of punk rock. I'm like, we're talking with guitars, we're talking with Chuck D, man, and we came here to kick your ass, and we won. And I beat up on Arkansas all the time. People say that I'm German, I'm going to come to your country to make a visit. One day soon, I'm great. See the whole country. You'll love America for charismatic for a while. The food's fantastic. You gave me jazz, R&B, soul, and rock and roll. You're welcome. Never go to Arkansas. Why? It's a cultural vacuum. Just go around it, go over it, don't go through it, because you just, please don't. Launch it into a tadpole. Just please. Like, why are you being so mean to Arkansas? I'm like, it's fun. I just love to do it. If any of you are from there, I'm sorry, man. I'll never get over it. I just think it is. Hey, I've been wearing you out for a long time. I'll let you go pretty soon. I wanted to read you this brief thing. I never bring notes or water if you've noticed. I have a fear of you leaving. I have a fear if I take a sip of water, I'll come back to the sip of water and you'll all be gone. So, no water. I basically a salty cracker in black cheek. I'll rehydrate later, or I'll just pass out. Anyway, I don't know if I say some notes, but there's one thing bears reading. I was in India. I've been to India many times, and I was in India a while ago with National Geographic. And as you know, there's a few things you can't take on board airplanes in America. No guns, dynamite, stuff like that. Don't do it. And you'll see a few icons when you check it. Little things in circles, like a little hazmat thing and a little skull. What is it? Guns, dynamite. No. It's all common sense. But there's only a handful of icons. And they'll say, do you have anything in your luggage that could explode, that could be frost, that could expand you? No. It says underwear and socks. I'm like, okay, you're good to go. And so there's my massive checklist. In India, to get on the plane, there is this incredible list of things that you are not allowed to bring on the flight. They show up on a screen in red. Things that are not allowable in red. The line to check in was so long, I pulled out my stand-up pad and took notes. I wrote down every single thing. So I said, this would be a good spoken word piece, because no one would believe me. The things that are legal to take on are in green on another screen that said, books. And so, I'm going to see if I can crank this up and get the list of things you can't bring on an airplane in India. So, when you go to India, and I trust you'll be there soon, you will not make a mistake and have to get these things taken from you. Because you're not as free over there as you are here. So, here are the things, and this is real, here are the things that you can't take on board a plane in India. You have been warned. Down left order. Acids, ammunition, automatic weapons, axes, baseball bats, blasting caps, bows and arrows, box cutters, brass knuckles. Let's hold on for a minute. Box cutters and brass knuckles. That's like a salutation. So it's like, well, kisses, box cutters, and brass knuckles. It could be a sports condition. How's it down there on the pitch? You know, that's all. It's all box cutters and brass knuckles. It's all like some active. Chili peppers, spelled C-H-I-L-L-Y. Compressed air, corrosive substances, cricket bats, crowbars, darts, disabling chemicals, disabling gases, dynamite, explosives, flammable gas, flammable liquids, flammable solids, gas lighters, golf clubs, hammers, hand grenades, hatchets, hockey sticks, household cutlery, hunting knives, ice axes, ice picks, knitting needles, knives, large, heavy tools, lead-acid batteries, mace, martial art devices, materialized matter, weed cleaners, mercury, oxidizers, pepper spray, pellet guns, peroxides, pickles, and spices. Don't even think about it. Pistols, plastic explosives, pool cues, portable power saws, portable power drills, razor blades, razors, replica weapons, rifles, road flares, sabers, scissors, screwdrivers, scuba knives, shotguns, ski poles, straight razors, swords, tear gas, toy guns, toxic substances, tradesman tools. Now, how do you think the meeting to get that list was conducted? I'm going to lock other people in a room, and I'm not going to give you anything until like 2017 or something. You can go to Cuba now, and I want to go to Cuba for a long time, but I don't want to sneak into a country. I don't want to go to Mexico City or Toronto or Madrid. I want to go illegally because I don't want to get caught, because I don't want to go to jail for nothing. I'm too pretty to be tired. And so I thought, you can go to Cuba. And so I got one of the, a couple of years ago, a year ago somewhere, I got one of the last tickets of the season because they were running out of hotel beds. So I find myself in Havana with a van full of wonderful, wise-ass people from Chicago, and they were the tour group I was in. They're fantastic people, we're all getting along. And by the day, we're driving around, we're seeing stuff, we're meeting wonderful Cuban people, eating fantastic Cuban food, and hearing some of the bestest music ever. And at night, I'll just walk around amongst young people in Havana, and they're out there with rock and roll, hanging out. I walk by them like the goats, I hold them in the way, they don't care about me. And so I walk out and sweat and see the seaside is unimaginably gorgeous. And the people couldn't have been nicer. So we're somewhere out in the countryside one morning at 10 a.m. We have a band call, and we're going to go see a farm where Comrade Fidel once had dinner and touched the tree. And we're going to see the tree, and we're going to take the tour. My van mates oil spotted me. They took off without me. And so they took off at 10. I got there like 10:03. I'm like, really? I go into the lobby. I said, did you see my van? They said, yeah. They just left. I'm like, whoa. And I showed them the nice guy behind the counter. I showed them my tour itinerary. I said, I'm supposed to be at that farm in 3 hours. Can you get me there on a taxi and all this weight? He said, well, even better, we have a local bus, 75 pesos. It comes every half hour. If the guy's like 10 minutes out, he will come. I will explain it. You are going to be on his route. He'll take you right there. It's not a problem. I said, thank you, man. The bus pulls up right on time. There's no one in it. And the guy from the counter goes in, he explains this. This is what basketball is to a road. Take me to the place where Comrade Fidel touched the tree. And he's like, got it. So I hop on the bus, give the guy the pesos. We go roaring down this beautiful country road. Just to do this in this like, mini school bus. And he's riding, I'm sitting right there in front of the seat. And so I'm just quiet, looking out, beautiful day. And he looks over and goes like, hello! I said, oh, hello! And he reaches his hand over and he goes, hello! And I shake his hand. I go, hey man, nice to meet you. We drive in silence for about a minute. He goes, America, good. Cuba, good. I'm like, yeah, man, sure, of course. We shake hands on that. Drive for another minute. He says, baseball. I said, home run. Hey, we shake hands on that. And so every half a kilometer, we're shaking hands about, we're toasting with handshakes, with him initiating. He said, Cuba, America, friends. I said, hey, I can't wait to shake on that. Then another minute goes by, Cuba, America, friends forever. It's not historically provable, but I can find a way because I did the Cuban All-Star there. Okay, I'll shake your hand right now. And we keep going, he's going on and on. He's kind of embellishing. Cuba and America, best friends forever and ever. And now I'm tearing up because I see the great human flaw. Humans are capable of anything. All we need, all human needs is some infrastructure work, like most Midwestern cities. Hello, bridges falling down. It's been very good idea. No, it's socialism. A freaking pothole repair socialism. Shut up and fix it before you lose a whole family in that thing. Cuba at a time, which says to me, more people in this country, our wonderful nation, need passports with visas in it. You need to go far and wide and shake a lot of hands, take a lot of food, move up a lot of music, and walk around cities that you don't even know the names of the streets of. And it's cool. I've been to 80 countries. My fingers are still intact. I've really been killed 3 times in my life. Like, really almost been killed. That was America. The rest of the world been really amazing. And so as we drive, everyone's like, yeah, and like, we're both related. It's like, yeah, we all get along, we're shaking hands. And then we get to this dusty intersection of 2 dirt roads, and there's a huge sign with a photo of Fidel, a ubiquitous cigar. I'm touching the tree, like, ooh. I go, this must be the farm. And I get out, he goes, no, shit. And the farm is about a mile off the main road. But he's going to take me there because, we bonded over baseball and friendship of 2 countries. And so we drive down this twisting, turning, skinny country road, and we get to this farm. And someone from the farm walks out with a clipboard, like, who are you dropping off? There's no one here till 1 o'clock. My tour group. And he translates, basically, this poor bastard lost his van, can you take care of it until they show up? And so the lady goes like, yeah, sure. And so I shake the guy's hand, I said, baseball! He said, baseball! He shook me 1 more time. And then this poor guy has to U-turn the school bus on a road this wide. I'm like, sorry, he said, no problem. I go, really? It looks like a big problem to me. And he went back to the bus and into the woods, like, crush. Oh no, dead school bus. But he manages to do it like 83 point turns later. He turned around and waved. I'm like, he's like, no, go straight. He's like, no problem. And he goes roaring away. And the woman goes, come. And so I follow the lady to the visitors area. I sit down in a chair, pull out my bottle of water and then my Lincoln biography, and I'm just happy as a clam, reading the heat. And she comes up to me a few moments later. She says, coffee? And I said, every day. And she comes back a few minutes later with this cup of coffee. And you know, when coffee's going to paralyze you, when it kind of smells like manure, right? Oh, that's the stuff. When it has an oil slick on top, like this blue eye and a vision looking back at it. Oh yeah, this will be psychedelic. And I sit on, whoa, I'm an eagle flying over ancient pyramids in South America. And I'm happy with a cup of coffee, the colors are coming alive. It's a fantastic experience. And she says, caramel? Like, are we talking about monosaccharides and hot caffeinated liquid in an already hot tropical environment? I'm in, what could possibly go wrong? And she comes back with a plate of handmade caramel. So I'm eating the monosaccharides and I'm drinking the hot coffee. And there's an effect. I'm already spazzed, but you give me sugar and coffee, I'm like another 8-year-old at Baskin Robbins. And so she keeps coming back with the coffee and the caramel, and I keep drinking and eating. And I can't go day, I'll drink coffee until I keel over. So I'm 2.5 cups and 2 plates of caramel in, and now I'm levitating off the ground, looking at the walls, I'm flapping my arms and able to take aerial laps on the entire farm. And finally at 1 o'clock the van arrives, and I land in front of it. I'm like, whoa! How'd you get here? I said, never mind. I have a vision. I was on a bus on a road with a man. We talked about baseball and shook hands. The entire world can get along. All they need to do is visit places and shake hands and talk about baseball. I have found a tree that Comrade Castro touched. I've gnawed the bark off it so I can recognize it. Come with me. He said, coffee much? I said, you have no idea. And so the best time I had in Cuba was alone with a guy on a bus because my tour group oil spotted me. And it was one of the most profound lessons in my short and stunted life. That, like the president said, people are cool. Some of them just got treated bad. And the ones who got treated bad, we need to look after them. Because, unfortunately, it's the United States. And you have to get along with them somehow. And as hard as that can be, when I get cut off in traffic in LA and flipped off as I'm getting cut off, like insult, injury, when I really get hit by a guy who's doing a red light because he's texting, that really killed me about 3 months ago. That wasn't fun. He was texting, and he didn't even see that he had a red light. He went through it full speed. I stopped because I saw something in my mind. I was like, everything's wrong, stop. I've been doing this show with an IV coming out of my face on a gurney if that guy hit me. How do I make friends with that guy? It would be hard, but maybe we could bond over the fact that we both like houses of the Holy by Ben Zapplin. but it would be a test. But it is my job to get along with this bastard, and maybe I would have to stick his communication device like this mask, like a radio on the fist. But it would be meaningful, and you remember. And so what's our job? Being smart, responsible, educated, cool, sexy people of the Republic. I think we need to talk more. We need to move around more. We need to be more of a pain in the ass of people who resist science, resist progress, and resist the future, because the future's coming, you can't stop it. So the more we shed the scales from the eyes of these people and turn them on with demo records and progress, the better off we'll all be. It will be a hard sell, especially in the Midwest, because some people are really entrenched in their opinions that if women get the same paycheck as a man, somehow the world will go off as access, and nothing will ever be the same again. And it's true, nothing ever will be the same again. Once this country gets a big slap in the mouth with a baseball bat of equality, that's when the 24/7 American Bloc Party will truly start. And we've been on the starting blocks of decades. And in our century, this one that we share together and none of us are going to live through, that's our job, is to get that party started. And you know what I think? I think we're going to do it. I think we're going to do it. I think we are doing it. But I think we're going to look awesome as we do it. And we are going to get it done. Thanks for doing it. Good night.